That's old school. Thank you for that. I can always pitch in, but I'm not a leader when it comes to singing. I sung with my uncle had a group, and I could do a little tenor, and that's about it. But leading a song, that has never been me. So thank you for the braveness that send you to come and do that before people that you don't even know. So to God be the glory for that. Amen. We're pretty close now to where we need to. Okay. All right.
Brother Ryan's coming.
Okay. All right. So where did he go? Okay. All right. As soon as Brother Ryan get back, he's going to deal with us this morning. Jobs for life. I don't know what's on his heart, what's on his mind, but I believe that all of us can take something away from every lecture that is presented here. In each lecture, they come in their own way. And I believe today that if you pay attention and really tune up your antennas, I believe you leave with something that you can use in the future. So as soon as he's back, we'll go from there. Yes.
Fiery furnace to bring out. So with that being said, while Brother Ryan is getting himself together, let me just take a couple of minutes and talk a little bit more about Men of Change and what we stand for. A lot of you all may be wondering, first of all, let me do this. Everybody that's a part of the Men of Change organization, please stand. If you're a part of our active steering committee, part of the staff, please take a stand. We'll talk in just a second. We know that Deacon Jones is tied up there, so he's a little bit busy. So right here we have Deacon Newsom, which is a part of our financial secretary committee oversight. We have Brother Lofton, who is one of our administrators. He basically heads up that department. That particular arm of our ministry does an awesome job as far as helping us, getting everything together, arranged from an administrative standpoint, different opportunities that are placed before us. God uses him and his instrumental voice and his insight to help navigate and establish things. And then we have our senior prelay here that basically is an oversight. And I can't give enough words and appreciation, not just because he's my brother, but the spiritual insight and the fortitude that God places over him. When you have something of this taken where we work with organizations, we work with churches, community programs, law enforcement, school systems, you need someone that will be objective, tell you the truth, and that is led and under the divine auspice of the Holy Spirit. Because you want to make sure that when you start these various undertakings, that you know exactly what you're doing and that you don't leave God out. He is the top line and the bottom line. Without him, anything that you all see this morning wouldn't be possible. So I just want to acknowledge them and thank them. Deacon Jones over there was working hard. I can't give him enough praise. This is my ride or die here. Anytime I have to hit the road, I got somewhere to go. I have an appointment, there's training, and that's a lot of what we do. We focus and we specialize in training different individuals to have a coherent manner in which it is that they work with people. Because you can come up with a mom and pop shop any day, okay? We have a curriculum, we have a design manual where we take you from point A to point E, going through the different things in life. And that ranges anywhere from anger management, better communication, self-esteem, substance abuse, the whole 9 yards. Because we're equipped and we're staffed with counselors, ministers, and deacons that really understand the significance of the Word of God and who God is and how to move forward. So we are very grateful and we're very blessed in that aspect. So with no further ado, let me give a quick prelude into our first speaker this morning. I happened to be in a men's meeting about 2 or 3 months ago, back in July. There was a Father's Day program at one of the local churches. And I heard this young man come in and he started talking about life and how God had taken him. I won't get too far in his story because that's his testimony of what God had took him through, where he had been. The old song said he started on the bottom and now he's here. And it grabbed my attention. I said, because more people need to hear this guy's testimony, his experience, and what he did, only God can do. So I'll let him come in his own way, Brother Ryan Ray, and talk with you this morning and really bless your heart, really bless your soul when he gets done. If he can maybe hang around for a couple of minutes and answer any questions. He is also the president and the CEO for Jobs for Life. So with no further ado, Brother Ryan, if you'll come and bless us with what God has laid upon your heart, we'll be so grateful.
Come on and put your hands together. Brother.
Myself a little time in here so I can be obedient. How you young men doing today? All right, awesome. Thank you, Doctor, for the opportunity, for the invitation to be here. I love the whole idea of change, because that's really what it's about. I believe that that's the journey that we're all on, is this journey of transformation. So first of all, I give honor to God for being here. It's first in my life. I thank him for just any opportunity that I get to be able to share my story with anyone. And so grateful for the ears of you all. So I won't be up here before you long, but he asked me just to come back and share my story, which I did share at a conference not too long ago. And I share it quite often. So as you mentioned, my name is Ryan Ray. I'm from, I call it the big metropolis of Dunn, North Carolina. Yes, sir. Big metropolis of Dunn, population about 10,000. Nobody died today. And so grew up in on actually the Sampson County side of Dunn in the country. I was fortunate, I always say, to be blessed with a community, a tribe of people who raised me. Both my parents, aunts, uncles, the neighbors. And so this thing today that we call mentorship, for me, that was grandparents, that was grandma, grandpa, that was my uncles, that was the men in the neighborhood. And so anyway, came through high school, went on to college. As so many, I had no clue what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, what I wanted to become. College was just this next step. And I tell people that it was a 5.5-year, $30,000 party is what college was. I was clueless. I went from degree to degree, just really trying to figure it out. I like to share one story that while I was in college, if my syllabus said anything about public speaking, I actually would drop the course because I told myself back then, I will never stand in front of an audience and share a message or share a story. But it's what I do today with the majority of my time, actually. And so I did finally go ahead and graduate from NC State after that 5.5 years and went right into sales and marketing. Did nothing with the degree, was in agriculture and life sciences. I went into sales and marketing. For then it was called Altel, which then became Verizon. It's Verizon today. I did that for about a year, but I did learn there that I love interacting and engaging with people. I love being out and about and really selling is what I really found a love for. And so did that for a couple of years, and then I started selling cars over at Leith Honda. Tried my hand in a couple of entrepreneurial ventures, failed horribly, but I learned a lot. But in 2003, this is where life really began to change for me. Has anybody ever been at a point in your life where you just said, there's got to be something different? There's got to be more to life than this. And that's where I was in 2003, pacing back and forth across a parking lot. And, here I was with a high school diploma and a college degree, but I had never, ever read a book from cover to cover. right? Really just opened it up and just read this book cover to cover. A friend of mine handed me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I read that book and it just blew my mind because the ideas and the concepts in that book that it started sharing, I knew nothing about. And so it wasn't long after that, late one Sunday night after a full day of church, I got in the car and to head down to Tampa, Florida to see a friend of mine. And the competitor in me said I was going to drive all night, and I didn't make it. I felt myself falling asleep, and I was going to stop at the next exit, but then I woke up in the median of I-4 with the roof off of the car, and I looked up the road and realized that I had ran into the back of a tractor trailer running about 80 miles an hour. Totally destroyed the car, and it's by the grace of God. I would have walked away, but I broke this leg. And actually, I looked up into the sky and said, "Thank you, Jesus, that I'm alive." And I heard the ambulance coming, and finally, they got me out of the car and airlifted me to Orlando Regional Hospital, put me back together. And a week later, I was living in Raleigh at the time, like I said, living what I thought was the good life, chasing that dream, right? Chasing success by the world's standards, what I thought I should be doing. But God had another plan. And so after that week of rehabilitation and everything, I got on a plane and came back home and found myself in that big metropolis of Dunn, North Carolina again, in the bedroom I grew up in, with my mom putting my socks and shoes on my feet. Wow. And so that was a very, very humbling experience, but that's where life really, really began for me. And so after being home for about a week, actually, the church that my father pastored, my home church that I grew up in, was totally destroyed by fire. I'll never forget being in the bedroom next to my dad, and the phone rang, and he jumped out the bed, I jumped out the bed, and we flew about an 8-minute drive over to the church, and it was engulfed in flames. So here I am on crutches with a broke leg, watching my home church burn down. And so it was just bam, bam. But God always has a plan. My father and I, we always been close. We didn't really have that bond and that relationship. As soon as I was 16 years old and was able to do my own thing, I was doing my own thing. And so, but this incident brought me back home, and my father and I really began to build this bond. We were together every day, trying to figure out what we need to do to keep the church going and move things forward and continue having services. And so through that experience, though, God introduced me to a guy who would soon become a mentor. And I use that word a lot because I wouldn't be where I am today if someone hadn't reached back and helped me to change my life, to change my thinking. And so I was introduced to this guy who was a very successful insurance agent in Dunn. Imagine, very successful person in the big city of Dunn. But God put us together, and I had no interest in doing insurance, but I started going to his Friday morning training sessions, where he was training his staff and his team. And I started hearing things that I just had never heard before. Things like, it's not what happens to you that determines your success. Mm-hmm. It's what you do with what happens to you that determines your success. And I could even say that another way. If things don't happen to us, things happen for us. Good stuff right there. Let me say that again. Things don't happen to us. No matter what it is, no matter how bad it is, no matter how tragic it may be, it didn't happen to us. For the Bible tells us what? That all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Yes. Right? And so I was in a place where I thought something had happened to me, this tragic incident where I was living the life that I thought was this good life, back down to starting all over from scratch. And he said, "No, Ryan, that's not how it works." He said, "Now take this situation and use it for good. What can you learn out of this situation that can begin to set your life in another direction?" And I bought into that. And then he said something else, and I've lived my life based on this ever since. He said, "Ryan, success isn't something that you pursue." Because up to that point, I thought that's what you do. You chase success, right? You go after the things you want, you pursue it. He said, "No, that's not how it works." He says, "Success is something that you attract by the person you become." me say that again. He said, success is not something that you pursue. Let me ask you guys something. You ever saw something that you pursued and it ran from you?
Yeah.
Probably had on a skirt. Right? Well, okay. One time. But what probably happened is that once you got yourself into a point where she was now attracted to you, you no longer had to chase. Right? You were attracted. So what he said was that when you become a person of value, when you become a person that has these skill sets, like learns how to listen, right? A problem solver, right? You walk into the room and people are like, man, you know, they just kind of changed the temperature in the room. A person of value. So we said, Ryan, if you're not focused on chasing success, but focus on becoming a person of value. He said, I promise you, things will begin to work out for you. Wow. And they did. And so I bought into that philosophy. And like I said, I was this, you know, I thought educated guy, but I learned of this new thing called personal development, leadership development. And I became a personal development junkie. I started reading the books. I started listening to these things. Y'all probably don't remember them, called cassettes. Put them in a box and press play. Come out that rotary phone. Remember, I had to press that hard button on that recorder. And I just used to listen to all of this information from, you know, the top gurus in sales and marketing and leadership and transformation. Even the Bible, when it became an audio version. And I just began to change what was going into my brain. You know, my mentor said, Ryan, if you want to change some things in your life, you got to change some things in your life. He said, you got to change who you're hanging out with, right? I grew up, like I said, I had a brother, cousins, but if I continued just hanging out with them every day, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish some of the things that I've been able to accomplish. If I'd have continued to listen to the things I was listening to, right? I turned off the radio and started listening to this information when I was on the road. And it just began to transform the way I thought about life. It began to transform the way I looked at everything. You know, I never forget one day, he walked me into his office and he said, Ryan, you know, how are you doing financially? He knew the answer to that. He said, how are you doing financially? I said, man, not so well. I said, you know, I'm broke, busted, and disgusted. It's tough out here, right? He said, well, Ryan, who are you getting your financial advice from? And with all the manhood and ego I could muster up, I said, well, myself. And he said, you got to stop listening to that idiot. Let's go now. He said, Ryan, you're never going to get where you want to go based on the little bit of knowledge that you know. Right. He said, you got to learn some new information so that you can apply that information to your life. And when you get some new information, you'll change the way you behave. And when you change the way you behave, you'll get some different results. Anybody want different results in your life in an area? All right. So most people, if they want to get a different result, they just say, well, I'm going to do more of what I've been doing. And somebody said, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always got. Right. And so when we want more, we just ramp up what we were already doing wrong. And my mentor said, no, Ryan, so stop. Just stop what you're doing. Right. Let's get back to how you think about that thing, right? And so if we'll, instead of focusing on results, which are determined by our behavior, let's start focusing on the way we think. And our thinking is simply a function of the information that goes into our brain. And so I started to think differently. I started to learn. I started to educate myself. I started to hang out with people who knew more than I knew, right? If there's a shortcut to success in any area in life, it's a mentor. It's finding somebody who's already done it, right? It's finding somebody who's accomplished what it is that you want to accomplish. And so when I began to apply that information to my life, you know, I was working at the time in the community for what was called the Police Athletic League. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the PAL. It's an after-school program that's funded by the police department in cities across the country. And my mentor said, Ryan, when you stop focusing on yourself, what you just said earlier, when you start focusing on yourself and start focusing on other people, yes, you know, become someone who serves other people. He said, Ryan, things will change for you. You know, at that point in my life, it was all about me. right? But then I began to change that and say, how can I be of value? How can I serve other people? And I tell you, door after door after door after door began to open up for me. And in 2015, I started, after having some entrepreneurial experience, some failures and some successes, I started an organization called Triangle Entrepreneurial Leadership. This is in 2015, for the sole purpose of educating and equipping entrepreneurs with that whole thinking and skill sets. In 2018, because of that work, I was asked to come and lead Jobs for Life, which is a national organization. We're celebrating 25 years this year. And basically, God just gave me an opportunity to do what I was already doing, but at a national scale. And what was I doing? Focusing on building people. How do I help people to grow? How can I take the information that a mentor, that a community taught me, and begin to impart that into the lives of other people? And so that's why I wanted to be here today, because I love what you're doing, because it's all about giving back. God didn't put us on an island, right? He put us in community so we could be of common unity, right? And serve other people. Our gifts and talents aren't for us, right? They're for other people, right? If I could sing, right? Just singing in the shower, that wouldn't be the best use of that gift. Right? If you're called to preach and to minister to yourself in the mirror wouldn't be the best use of that gift. Those gifts are meant to be used out for the service of God and to bless other people. So I'll pause there and just see if there's any questions or anything so I can get out you guys' way. Because I know you came to hear somebody that's much smarter than me.
No. Well, we definitely appreciate that, Brother Ryan. I guess, just one general question, if like we have some community individuals that's back in the back that may be in transition, that are struggling in different areas in their life, if they wanted to get more information or to figure out, how can I benefit from Jobs for Life, and what are some of the things that it would help me in my current situation, your response would be to them as well.
Well, first of all, when I was in that very low place in my life, the first thing that I had to do was really decide that I wanted something different. Like that was the very first choice, right? Now, I couldn't make that choice based on my current situation. Because my current situation, if I only looked at where I was and my own ability and information and, resources, then I would have told myself, Ryan, you can't do it. Right. And so what changed for me was so this is the way I describe it. We all have a current reality, right? We have whatever's going on with us right now. Right. At that point, as I mentioned earlier, I was just broke, busted kid back in my bedroom at a 27-year-old, clueless as to what I wanted to do. And my mentor said, well, Ryan, that's your current reality. He said, but what you need is a preferred reality. What is it that you want that's different than what you currently have? And he said, when you decide what that is and begin to focus on that, don't focus on your current reality. Focus on, that's what makes this pursuit of heaven so great, right? You wouldn't be here today if there was no greater outcome, if there was something greater that we were trying to achieve, right? We would just continue to be selfish, sinful people, right? If we didn't have something that was motivating us to do something different. And so I would answer that question by saying what, and so when you decide, you know what, no matter what I'm going to pursue, I want to accomplish, I want to have something that's different than my preferred reality, right? And when we decide what that is, that determines how we behave. That determines our results, that determines our outcomes, okay? And so, when I was walking on that parking lot that day, there's another little saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And so when we're ready, the opportunities, the doors begin to open in our lives. God is just sitting there waiting on, what do you want to do, right? What's your next step? And when we make that decision, he begins to open up the doors. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the goal is set, the doors begin to open. That's what it said. Seek and ye shall find.
Yes.
But you gotta you got to know what you want to find, right? You got to start searching for something. And so when you do that, I'm happy to share more information, share our website. I don't think there's any classes going on in this area. Pastor Cole and I have talked about that.
Okay.
But there's still information out there that we can share. Happy to help to teach you more. But I would also say, identify. I'm sure there's resources here in the community that can begin to help us to think about. That can begin to help us to think about what it is that we want to accomplish. What is that next step? Again, and when we decide that, now just go find some people. Like, you know, you want to be a doctor, go find a doctor. And if you can't get close to them yet, just watch it. Right? And that helps us, you know, if you want anybody that grew up in the church and said, man, I want to be a deacon one day, what'd you do? You watched the deacon. Everything the deacon did, you was watching. Right? You wanted to be, if a little kid, if you want to be a pastor, what did you do? You watched what the preacher was doing, right? And you learned those things. So whatever that might be, you know, my grandfather cut grass. At 13 years old, I was cutting grass in the summers full time. Right? I still love to cut grass today. I love that transformation of being able to take something that was uneven and out of order and shape it up. And so but there are opportunities out there if we will set our mind that they are, and then begin to go after that thing. And here's the question you got to ask yourself: is what I'm doing now going to help me to accomplish that? If the answer is yes, then what? Keep doing it. If the answer is no, then we got to change, right? We got to do something different, because if we keep doing what we've been doing, guess what we're going to get? Same results.
Any other questions or any comments from anybody?
I need a mentor.
Hey, well, I'm pretty sure that out of the collection that we have here, we can definitely get one assigned to you, my man. If you're looking and you're sincere, when we wrap up, we will definitely have somebody that we can hook you up with. But now, let me say this, and you can stand there, Pro, right? We transition if there's any other questions. Let me also share this with you as well. That Men of Change has been around since our inception of 2006. We've worked in school systems, we work with local community colleges, universities, we worked with the homeless before. And, you know, God has always granted us favor to do what we do. But I do want to give a disclaimer. We're very, very serious about what we do, okay? This is not a mom and pop shop operation. So, you know, we don't just pop on the scene to, you know, fade in and fade out and, you know, make a whole lot of lofty promises. It goes back to what Brother Ryan said. If you are serious, and we talked with our young friend here on last night about doing what it is that you want to do, there is help. But we also like to see you meet us halfway by starting the initiation process. So we married her up with a mentor last night, which is a real good friend of me and my wife, who's also renowned in this part, gospel singer, who has big time establishment with the local hospital. And she has committed to helping her get a job and moving forward. But now you have to be accountable and you have to be committed. So I just want to give you a disclaimer and give you a warning that, you know, this is just not something to say or do for the sake of it. We are serious about what we do because there is a mandate. Men of Change since its inception has worked with more than 765 people. And that's not to blow our horn and say we're this, that, or the other, because in the greater scheme of things, we're still lean, we're still small, but we pack a punch. When we hit, we make connection. So I just want to give that to you. We're very, very serious about it. But if you really, really want it, we will marry you up with a mentor. My schedule is very tight, but I'm never too busy. I can't get to you when you need me. Leave me a message. I have about 6, 7 counselors that I'm working with now. I'm a consultant full-time. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm also in the ministry. I do preach. I can preach. I'm not a pastor. So I make myself available for various opportunities. But I want you to know that all of these guys that you see here this morning, their time is valuable. And if we make the effort, we want you to follow through. All right, we're clear? So we'll definitely talk afterwards. God bless. Yes, sir. Back to you, Ron. So any other questions, any other comments for our speaker? If not, take a couple of minutes, grab your bottle of water, or do whatever. Then we're gonna pave the way for Dr. Williams.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thanks, Brother Ron.
Those, take your break. What we gleaned today is definitely what we need and what we can take and share with others. And I remember reading a book by Bishop Noel Jones, who talks about the battle in the mind. It deals with your mind. If you want to be transformed, you have to make sure that you work with your mind. Most people say your heart. Cardiac, we talk about the mind, but also you just can't say that I want to change. And he made that situation just don't change. You have to make an effort to see the change, and then you got to stick with the changes. Okay. So I think we have that in clear, definitive from those here today. If you're willing to sacrifice and move forward, you'll get the help that you need. All right. Fun. I like a little fun. I'm serious. I wrote that. I'm serious, but I still love that fun.
Yes, sir.
And I was telling them earlier that I love the cage fighting. You know, I'm a 50-degree black belt. He can tell you that I'm a real 50-degree black belt. Not one of those that you just get the belt and tie it on and look like. I fought all over the world with 6-foot trophies. I got those. He can tell you that. But I love what the referee does when he's in the ring. He look at it and says, "Are you ready?" You look at, "Are you ready?" And then he still like that, "Let's get it on." We have one that's gonna get it on. And we thank God for Dr. Williams for being here this morning, and he's going to bless us, and we're going to pay attention, and that we're going to leave here with something that we can use. I believe in whatever we receive, it should be usable. You should be able to use it in your life, and I believe today what he's going to lecture with us, that you'll be able to use it in days to come.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank the Lord for this opportunity. Thank you all. And apologize, been on the phone a lot. But
That's what doctors do.
yeah, but this really makes me so happy to be here today. Right now I'm covering 3 detoxes in Eastern North Carolina. Those are what it was called about. But when I see the people here, I know it doesn't affect them.
Amen.
So that's a good thing.
Amen.
Amen.
Another ironic thing about this, in most of those facilities, 9 out of 10, now that's, turn on TV, you don't see that. 9 out of 10, not a lot of us need some help. I'd like to say that didn't hit us, but it's a little rough. But good morning. My topic today it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to say a few words about hormones. I'm going to say another word or two about neurotransmitters. And I'm going to say a lot of words about what's hitting us most right now. That's cool. Okay? And you can stop me at any time. This will be a little bit different. I'm going to just talk a few minutes. I'd rather do the Q&A. And I think that way it'll hit home a little more. Okay? My topic basically was to talk about hormones. And I'm not going to stress a whole lot about hormones. The body makes it. And, you know, they got glands that produce them. Do a lot of things. Almost every part of the body is under control of a hormone. That's God's way. He made it that way. But since this is a male conference, I'm going to speak, just say a word or two about the main male hormones.
Amen.
And to me, there's 2 that's of concern. Testosterone and adrenaline.
Amen.
Those are 2. And I'm going to talk about a neurotransmitter dopamine in a minute. And I'll tell you why we plan to do it that way. Everybody in here knows testosterone is the male hormone. But women have testosterone too. So don't just jump up in their face. They just don't have as much. Okay. Now, testosterone is a funny, that's not really that, that's right. You're born and it's like this, you get older and then it goes down like that. I'm sure nobody in here has witnessed the part going down here.
Yeah, right.
But biblically, they say you will. But you got supplemental ways of handling that. Okay? Another hormone I'm talking about was adrenaline, epinephrine. And I was speaking with a gentleman talking about taekwondo and all that. Either you fight or flight.
That's right.
That's the hormone for that. All right? I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind for right now. And I told you I'm gonna talk about the neurotransmitter, but we're gonna talk about that dopamine in a minute. But for males, I'm gonna talk about things that you can see readily right now. You're gonna say, how does this tie together? Just in a minute. 2 health conditions I think we as Black males need to be mostly concerned about. High blood pressure, diabetes. Now, there are a whole lot of others out there. I'm gonna get personal. I had a dislocated shoulder and went to the hospital to get it fixed. And the anesthesiologist, they check you out first before you go into anesthesia. He said, man, your blood pressure 240 over 160. I said, man, get out of my mind. I ain't never had high blood pressure in my life. Repeated it. Then I went to 270. I said, don't repeat it no more. I said, but I never had that. Ever. He said, how you feel? I said, I feel good. I'm gonna get the surgery out of the way. He said, I can't operate under those conditions. Oh my God. Then I said, I haven't had any symptoms or anything. What could this be? The most I would have had is, you blow your nose and maybe a slight tinge of blood, not enough to call blood. Something not right. So he said, no, we sent you over to the ED part of the hospital, and we're gonna do some CT scans and all that kind of stuff. They came back and said, no, he's perfect. Blood work perfect. The lady said, how you feel? I said, Miss Oliver, I'm just hungry. She said, well, we're not gonna operate today, so I guess you can eat something. But then it dawned on me. 270 over 140, 150, 160. I said, dang, I remember a lot of people left with less than that. And I realized, I said, this is why they call this the silent killer. And everybody in here knows a friend, relative, comrade who's had a stroke, heart attack, high blood pressure. Complication of diabetes. I was on a conference earlier in the week, and we're going to go into this a little later, and they were talking about diet in the Black community. They got some areas where we don't have supermarkets, and they call those food deserts. And the lady got on the conference. By golly, we must teach these people about their calories and their protein. I said, wait a minute, miss. You're up in the ivory tower, let's get down in the real world. A hungry man, if he's hungry, last thing he's thinking about is calories and protein. You want to eat. Well, by golly, you don't have to get like that. I said, but I am like that. Can I call you right back in about 10 minutes? Okay. Remember, I told you to cut the detox. Just phone around rings. That's what it's all about. And 9 out of 10 doesn't look like you and me. So we got a lot to be proud of. But the other 10 is what we got to worry about. But anyway, so diabetes. We all have friends that one leg, not from a car accident, arm taken off, fingers and toes. Diabetes, that's a hormone too, answer. But we need to get into that because powers that be not necessarily looking out for us. A lot of these limbs being taken off, toes and fingers, even with diabetes, doesn't have to be. You got a clogged artery here in the leg, so hey, you might get gangrene. People that got the money, they do bypass surgery, put vessels and stuff down and bypass to save that leg. You and me, you're expendable. It's easier to just take a leg off. But what about the quality of life?
Yeah. That's right.
What about the quality of life? There should be nobody out there love you better than you love you. And the only way you can love you is to know about you. It's more than hormones. But I just picked those two conditions. High blood pressure and diabetes. That's why I heard about that all my life. It's been with us all our lives, and even before we got here. Now, we've been looking at TV over the past several months, and they said Black life expectancy is decreasing. Now, first of all, let me explain what life expectancy is. Anybody know that? You say, well, anybody know what life expectancy is? Let me make sure we fully understand. Life expectancy starts, if you're born today, how long are you gonna live? Okay? So if they say life expectancy is 85, that don't mean you're gonna go to 85. You weren't born today. So let's make sure we fully understand that. But when they tell you that the life of a Black male has fallen by 3 years, this is the first time in history. We've been doing this slowly and slowly. The average life expectancy of a white male may be about 75, something like that. I can give you exact figure, but that doesn't matter. Ours was 69. Something wrong with that. We got to do something about it. Who loves us better than, nobody should love you better than you love yourself. Now we got a lot of obstacles in our way. We tend to get the worst jobs, which means that if the grocery costs $100, it costs a rich man 100 and a poor man 100. It doesn't matter. And you might say, well, maybe education is the key. And it is the key. But even at that, if you're not watching, that's not a guarantee either. But believe me, it's best to have it than not. Amen. Now, I'd like to talk to the gentleman Mr. Ryan just gave about entrepreneurship. I like this program because you're instilling in the youth back there, hey, you got to do this thing. It's a fantastic idea, but we got to grasp it. Now, I'm trying to cover a lot of things in a short period of time. We talked about the two main hormones, I think, that control our actions. We talked about the two, I think, major health conditions that affect our life, especially in the Black community. And we talked about life expectancy, drop 4 years. Talking about how we can fight some of this with educating ourselves and getting better jobs and more skills. Talked about all of that. But it's a little more to it than that. A lot of times there are things that comes along that we can't control. And that's where we're headed to. What's the most prevalent thing out there today? COVID-19.
Yes.
COVID-19. Where did it come from? We don't know. When COVID first broke overseas, showed all the Oriental people, especially in China, being carried away and all this kind of stuff. They started the room in America. Black folk can't get COVID. Remember they started that years ago, told us that we couldn't get HIV. And lo and behold, we ended up being affected more than anybody.
Yes.
COVID having the very, very it's y'all. It's them, not us. Oh, I can't get it off because Dr. Williams.
Hey, Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Hey, listen, I'm about to get a new admission. Ready to start the second government meeting, still talking to the PA. But Justin Chris left this morning.
Yeah.
He said that it's great script for his seminar from the Harris Theater on Sunset.
Okay.
And I don't know who else can order it.
Okay, let me call. Tell him I'll call him back in 15 minutes and we get it straight, okay?
Wow.
By golly, what the heck? But anyway, be that as it may. This COVID thing is killing us. It's overriding any hormone, any other condition, everything that I know of. And that's where these slides are going to come in. And I just want to zero in on that before I do anything else. This is what this is mostly about. Hormones, very important. These health conditions, other health conditions, very important. Because when we talk about COVID, all of these affect that too.
Mm-hmm.
All of these affect that too. So I'm just going to run through a few things real quickly, and then we'll do a Q&A, and then hopefully, if we can just save one person, it will not happen.
Amen.
Okay?
That's right.
Right in. See that?
I got it.
That's it right there.
Okay. Let's have, leave that. We don't have to worry about that. Okay.
We're gonna talk about COVID-19. But just as important, the misinformation. You know, Mark Twain once said, a man who won't read is no better off than a man who can't. That sounds fine and dandy, right? But we gotta know what to read.
Right.
And this is where why part of this talk is about misinformation. Okay? Right. Now, it's needless to say, everybody in here knows somebody or know of somebody who's had COVID and died. Every one of them. Why this is moving up. But why is that? First of all, it's easily transmitted. We get the worst jobs where you may catch it. And then to further compound that, the crazy information people give us. And we got vaccines now to help combat some of this stuff. Look at that. Hospitalization. 1/3 of the hospitalization in the country are us. Nationwide, we probably somewhere around 10, 11, 12. Okay, whose statistics we look at. But we are way out of sync. Way out of sync. And this is for comparison purposes. Even as we lead the pack in that too. I tend to think that a lot of that, maybe it's just not very good, maybe from the spray killing the roaches and stuff that we have to encounter. All right? We have lost 7, and these, remember now, these are at the time, the slide was fixed. 73,462 Black lives to COVID-19 as of a few weeks. Okay? Now, I just showed you the slide said 33% of all the hospitalizations, about 15% of all the deaths. Now, if we start bringing it into some of our counties, like where we are, like Lake County and places like that, Columbus.
What about Pitt County?
Pitt is rough too. And the reason I didn't put the specific figures on a lot of these counties was true today.
Change.
It changes so fast. Yeah. But it's bad. I don't care what they do. It's bad. It's bad. Now, we got vaccine, I just told you that. It's free. And why won't we take the vaccine? Well, a lot of people say, Dr. Williams, it's like the Tuskegee Institute. It's Tuskegee study. I said, what? I said, where in Tuskegee? That one was in Florida somewhere. No, it's not quite the case. I said, what? How do you interpret the Tuskegee study? Well, they gave these black men some medicine and it helped kill. Tell it, Doc. I said it didn't work. Yeah, that's So that's the reason you're not taking the COVID vaccine. That's right, Doc. You're trying to give me something that's a kill me too. I said, look. The Tuskegee problem was they wouldn't give you the medicine. This was a study they started. People had syphilis. Okay, people had syphilis. And they developed penicillin. They developed penicillin. Brand new. So they said, we got this group of black men. Why don't we just keep some of them and treat them? And most of them we won't treat, just see what happens long term. And they said, Mr. Smith, here's your medicine. We give you the best thing we can. Give you some aspirin or something like that. And make you think you get the best care there is. And it didn't even start about the 30s and ended in the 70s.
Yes, 72.
So it wasn't that what they gave you, it's what they didn't give you. So that's the reason you won't take the vaccine. Okay, I understand. Now, black folk had to do some crazy stuff. This right here wasn't too far from me. This is over there in Goldsboro, North Carolina. You don't have to go down to Tuskegee, Florida, as they say.
Which is a little less than an hour.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you about what happened over there in the general time. Let me tell you what happened over in Goldsboro. Goldsboro, we had color institution for insane or whatever you want to call them. And they had these ladies in there that said that the males got sterilized too. They sterilized them because they were, quote, them feeble-minded. We can't have no more. So a lady might come in and say, I got a bad case of indigestion. Miss, we need to operate. Child treatment. Child treatment. Cycle might be a little long. This we got to do something. Do a hysterectomy. Lady don't know it. And it went on the black folk. Probably 90, like I just tell you, the other way, 90% deal with this. Probably 90% of this was us, okay? And it went on for years. Went on for years. Then, late 70s, 80s, when we stopped it, allegedly stopped it. And in the late 90s, they said, hey, we're gonna try to compensate some of these people. I just told you this went on, started in the 30s, okay? They said, we're gonna compensate some of these people. And we're gonna give them $50,000. I had the opportunity of being asked to serve on this board called the Eugenics Board. We're gonna decide how we're gonna do this. But when they said people had to be alive to get the money, wait a minute, I don't want to be on nothing like this here. If you, this is in the 30s now, let's say it's in the 30s, and you had a hysterectomy, and then almost 70 years later, that means you had to be about 90 now, right? Exactly. Yes. And you had to be alive to get the money. And I just told you about our life expectancy. And that's as of today. Man, how it was back there, if you born in, probably in the teens, 20. No. So you don't have to go back to Tuskegee, Florida, as they say. You can just go up the road, like I said, 40 miles and see what they did to us there too.
Exactly.
Okay? All right. I gave a talk to, matter of fact, last Sunday, I spoke to the New York State NAACP. And I showed them what happened down in Tuskegee. I showed them what happened in Goldsboro. And I said, wait a minute, you're not off the hook. Look at this slide. This happened right in New York City. New York City. There's this gynecologist, supposed to be world renowned. Matter of fact, I do surgery, we use his instrument with the name on it. What he would do, operate on black women in what they call an arena. They do all kinds of vaginal surgeries, and it's a sensitive area. But no anesthesia.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
The white women got anesthesia, but they train people to say black women take this kind of stuff. They don't need anesthesia right there. This is Dr. Singer. Matter of fact, he was so worried with no man. Downtown New York, they had this big statue honoring Dr. Singer. People raised holding, they took it down about 4 or 5 years ago. So he's not a hero. Let's see what we can do. Now, we're talking about the vaccine. We always see the little round thing with like Sputnik. But what we're worried about is there's a little thing sticking up. See the little prongs there? Those spike proteins. Spike protein. That's supposed to be what causes the problem. So what? But the rest of the virus is covered. So with the vaccine, we target the spike protein and food the body, and it makes antibodies to protect you. That's why this thing works, pretty much. Okay? Now, I'm not gonna go through all these slides. This is safety of the vaccine. I'm purposely skipping a lot, but we'll be here all. We got 3 basic types of vaccine. A lot of our people will not take it at all. It's our duty to prevent some later. It's not only for you, but to protect the fact. But we got a Pfizer vaccine, got a Moderna vaccine, we got a Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Pfizer vaccine had to be kept real cold. Refrigerated about -70 degrees centigrade. Nobody got anything in the house like that. But anyway, Pfizer and Moderna, you need 2 injections, okay? With the Pfizer, you get 1 shot today, and 3 weeks later you get another. Moderna, same type of thing with 4 weeks. I'm gonna come back in a minute, we're gonna talk about booster, but right now. Johnson & Johnson is a 1-hit deal. People don't scare us, bam, bam. And in the end, I'm gonna talk about pill we're talking about. But they're on the market yet, so we need to talk about it. All right? So vaccines have been proven to be safe. And they're not really, they made this thing too fast.
That's right. Talked about that last night. Yes, we did.
I just let me tell you something. And I always use this as a I want to call it cat. I remember the best project we used to have a big cow family years ago. And I remember my grandmother, I was a little boy, I could have been more than 4 or 5, but I remember it as if it was yesterday. They had this lady in a white tube, something shaped like this bottle. Her head was sticking out on one end, her feet out on the other. And you see the 18 willows making this dark. And this lady was in it. She was encapsulated in this thing, making all this noise. I said, Grandma, what's that? She said, son, that's iron lung. This lady had polio. machine breathe for her. Now, you know, I'm a little boy, I'm trying to figure out how to breathing with me, but that was the way it is. I said, how long we should be in there? She said, forever, until she dies. Polio vaccine came out. They made all of us take it. I mean, we remember when we were in school, they did the vaccine, it went in alphabetical order. They yelled and screamed, and I go, oh my God, I'm in the darkness. I heard all of them. Everybody screamed before we got to be scared to death. But we got the vaccine. Nobody asked, what's in it?
No, they did not.
They discovered this vaccine right away. This vaccine here is the most studied vaccine in history. Let me tell you what, the basics of this vaccine started back with stuff like HIV, Ebola, SARS, and all that kind of stuff. So this is like, you already got a house, you gotta put a different kind of chimney on it. Naturally, it don't take long to put a chimney as it does to build a whole house. That's pretty much the way it was. This vaccine is the most studied vaccine in the history of mankind. And we won't take it. Okay? Now, when the vaccine first came out, we had to get healthcare workers and all that. We got to push to the end of the line.
Right.
But when I went to the center, I said, damn, where's the black folk? Out of 1,000 people, I guarantee you, there were 5 blacks out to get the vaccine. I asked my friend, yeah, we had 2. I said, you're wrong. And yet, we listen to these same people, I would take that vaccine right with you. And they get it. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, you believe people telling you they had no vaccine. How I know? I saw my own 2 eyes.
Wow.
Okay? Oh, no, I'm not taking this vaccine. I heard the Sputnik comes out your arm and the magnets stick to your arm. I had a nephew. I mean, food's coming all families. I got a nephew who told me. I know you're wrong now because I saw where people who took the vaccine, 269 people have died. I said, well, that may be true. I can't disagree with you. But I can tell you this. Over 670,000 people have died without it.
Come on, thank you.
This ain't my voice. Okay?
Tell it, Doc.
I'm telling you the truth. Now, in a minute, we're gonna talk about misinformation, how we get to that. I'm purposely. We was talking about the side effects of the vaccine. One of my sisters said, I got the vaccine, but I heard people get Bell palsy. I said, girl, remember when you were 14? No, 16, I believe it was. You got Bell palsy then. Yeah, that is right. Okay. I've been practicing medicine quite a few years. I have yet to see anybody die from Bell palsy. I'm sure it might happen, but it has something else too. Now, somebody got real serious health condition, autoimmune. I would say, talk to your doctor. Well, what should I do? I said, well, something like that, you talk to your doctor. But 99% of people you know ain't got nothing like that. You should get your shot. Deaths are very, very rare in them too. Now, one lady said, Doctor, we heard this thing about the herd immunity. I'm not a cow. I said, no, you're not. But the best way to protect ourselves, our communities, and families specifically, if most people got a vaccine, it's less likely it can spread and it can burn itself out pretty much. But you got to have 75, some people say 85% of the people vaccinated for that to happen. Okay? And you hear all these different variants. Oh, they got the Delta strain.
Right.
They got the Lambda strain. They got the Mu strain. You know why? A lot of people that vaccinated, the virus gets into you and starts a whole new life of its own. Okay?
Mutate.
It mutates. So if we are vaccinated, the virus is there. Where's it going to go now? That's the way it works. So that's why herd immunity. You got to be a cow. This applied to anything works. Now these are the different variants. When that spike changed just a little bit, there's a whole different protein in it. There's a whole different ball game. Fortunately, the vaccine so far covered that. Gentleman said, well, Dr. Williams, I've had it before. Why do I need a vaccine now? I should have immunity. And that's possibly true, immunity for what you had. What about those others? Vaccine tends to cover those others.
Yes.
So far. All right. Now, some people say, I had a vaccine and still have a side effects and that. And I can't disagree with that. And this is some new stuff. You can be vaccinated and still get COVID. Okay? But the chances of you dying, being hospitalized, is very, very unlikely.
Doc, if I could just interject real quick, and I know, like you said, for the sake of time,
Yes.
but I just want there to be a clear understanding and just to keep a little bit of consistency. Can you take just a couple extra seconds and go a little bit deeper and explain why people that are fully vaccinated, because a lot of people don't understand that, and explain the process why they still kicking track. I understand, I know you do, but for the sake of just a little bit deeper.
All right, let me do this. I want you to understand very clearly. The vaccine itself will not and does not prevent you from getting COVID. What the vaccine is made to do is to make sure you don't enter the hospital and make sure you don't die. Okay? Understand that. There's no vaccine on earth that I know of can prevent you from getting COVID. But these vaccines keep you from dying and having to go to the hospital. And that's important. Now, understand you can be vaccinated and you still can pass the virus. They said not as much, possibly not as much. That's why wearing the mask and social distancing and washing your hands still apply. Now, the kids, we gotta worry about that. We gotta worry about the kids. Kids can carry it and can get it. And a lot of them, about 25 to 70% of the cases, the new cases, are kids. Okay? So what we gotta do as adults, we can get the vaccine. Then they said, okay, if you 12 to 18, you can get the vaccine. A few weeks ago, they made a recommendation, 5 to 11 can get the vaccine. And you might say, well, they could have done that a long time ago. They just give the same thing we get. Look, it's not like that. You can't look at a kid as just being a small adult. Doesn't work like that. The kid dose of this vaccine is 1/3 the dose of the adult. Okay? So they had to do tests on it. Now, as I told you at the onset, there's going to be appeal, but none of that is approved. Not yet. Okay? But what is approved is what we need to get. But bear in mind, there is no vaccine that can prevent you from getting.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yes, yep.
There's this misnomer, and if you could give some clarity to this,
Yes.
as far as transmission, airborne, what does that mean? And how does that apply to what it is?
Very good question. Very good question. Anything in the air, could be droplets or whatever, If you bring it in, you can get it. Let me give you a good example. Somebody smoking. You smell the smoke is that boy. You say, I'm all the way back. And then you still get what that was. Okay? That's exactly what that means. Of course, then you like to smell coke, but it's the same principle. Very same principle.
So because it's in the air.
It goes in the air, you get it. And of course, that's why you watch handlers dealing with services too. Sell some services longer than others. Okay? So that's extremely important and a very good question.
Now, what other diseases are transmitted airborne? If you were to compare any others, so that we don't just talk about COVID, what other diseases?
A simple one, a cold.
A cold, okay.
Simple cold, flu. Okay? Just think about it. You know, last year flu was low. Guess what? I wear masks, social distance, and washing their hands. Now, a lot of people say they won't need that now. Getting back to that. You get your vaccine, they used to tell you, hey, you gotta wait a month to get the flu shot. Now, you get a both at the same time. You know why they're doing it that way? Because a lot of people are coming back. Now, another thing about the shots, I told you it's 2 shots right now, unless you got Johnson & Johnson. Right. A half a shot doesn't necessarily mean you have to protect. You much less. So you got to get both. Okay? You got to get that. Now I want to after you get COVID, let's say, let me go over this part also. If you got a positive test and you got a little bit of symptoms, small amount of symptoms, we can treat it. We can give you monoclonal antibodies, IV, take about an hour. Okay? So we can treat it. Okay? But if you get the vaccine, you're unlikely to have to do all that. Something for free, and technically the antibody costs about $100, but if we give it to you free right now, the insurance company might come back. But after you have COVID, it's giving it body aches and shortness of breath and all that kind of stuff. All right? But I want to go over this part here, and then I know time is of the essence. I want you to get vaccinated. But see that part, misinformation is so dangerous? It is. But I want you to just do this right here. And I hope this works. I know we got much time now. I want this to work because I want everybody to see. And then we can talk. I'm sorry I'm taking up all your time. I mean, if we save one person, we're gonna forget this. I want to say one clearly. That is Are we on the internet? We got the internet here, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's one of the best pieces I've seen. And
There's something you want that I can pull up on my phone?
yeah, that right there. And can you see it?
I can come up here and do it. What is that?
Right. I want to see that. And everybody, I would hope could write this down and look it up later, because just put the icing. Okay. Which one, two, put the whole link in there?
Yeah, I did /campaign /COVID. Or we can do a search for COVID.
And I want everybody to look at this recap everything I can say. It's very, very bad. And it comes on with. Now, I'm going to get to every day.
No.
This is from the NAACP, and it's 4 generations. The south side right there, it comes down, that right there.
The actual presentation.
This is actual presentation, short, and short. I'll show you.
It's okay.
Was one of the most difficult years for African Americans.
So you may have a hard time, but I'm gonna hold this up here so you can see it. Just take a look.
As president of the NAACP.
In order for this nation to recover, in order for our community to recover, individuals must understand their options. The health of any nation is measured by things, how well we care for our health.
About 1 minute and 47 seconds.
And how well we care for those who are disadvantaged. The number one issue in this moment is the lack of access to information and support. It is our goal to deepen our relationship with all of the technologies that exist with members of the community. As we begin to embrace once again, let's be knowledgeable around ways we can do so without putting people at risk. And as we inform, let's do so from a place of clarity, accuracy, and truthfulness. Let's create this opportunity to utilize all of the platforms, all of the tools that we have to be better informed and a stronger community as a result. Let's fight with the facts.
All right.
And I end this part with this. Even a little baby needs some protection. So we got to protect it. All right. Now, to keep protecting all of your time, I did want to say a couple of words about the misinformation.
Go ahead, Doc.
I just want to say a couple of words about misinformation. And I'm sorry about everything tonight.
You go.
Remember when I first started onset, I said, we talked about testosterone and adrenaline, and I said there's a neurotransmitter called dopamine. I just told you I'm covering detox right now. Why do people get high? Because they feel good. Why do they feel good? There are neurotransmitters in the brain called dopamine. Dopamine. It makes you feel good for any reason. People hear good news. Brain produces dopamine. You say, well, why that person keep using drugs over and over? Because if you feeling good, some dopamine. Somebody give you some news, make you feel good, girl, you sure are pretty. Dopamine. You tell us, yeah, there ain't no dopamine, Johnny. And she can tell you about it too, but that ain't the thing. But anyway, it's dopamine. So if somebody send you some messages over the internet, anything, if it makes you feel good, you keep on doing it. Right. So if somebody tell you a message, COVID will make you dumb. And it's from Jack Johnson. I never heard of Jack Johnson, but Jack Johnson got some good news there. And not taking that shot, I feel good about it. Keep telling me crazy stuff like that, and it gets reinforced. I just use that as a fart. All this mixed messaging, and you see it all on social media all the time. You got to check this stuff. Why is it coming to me? I just told you, a lot of the folks out in the community are looking persuaded, I would take that shot. I know they go, well, they took it by all. You got to check the source of the message. Some people might be well intentioned, but you got to do what we call fact check. And there are certain sites like Snopes, SNOPES, fact check, Washington Post. Before you take this stuff to heart, check it.
Yes.
Check it.
Yes.
And I'm not going to go any further, but just remember, we all need some protection. And I told you earlier that Mark Twain said that a man who won't read is no better than a man who can't read. But I'm going to add to that, know from whence what you read came from. Okay? It work like it's supposed to. Yes, sir.
First of all, I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
We really do. We know you're a busy man and we appreciate you coming to this insight. Now, there were certain things you did go over. I do want to get a better understanding about that. You mentioned two of the things, high blood pressure and diabetes.
Yes.
And you associate it from a different perspective. We hear about high blood pressure, we hear about diabetes in the Black community. But when you mention the word hormones, that kind of convolutes the whole ideology of what that means. So we can talk a little bit more about this. We hear hormones, women got hormones, they act funny, and they go through their menstrual cycle and all these type of things. How permanent is that? Is that a fighting technique in our bodies?
We all, male, adult male, adult female, kids, everybody got hormones. These hormones control all aspects of the body, from head to toe. Now, remember I talked about one of the hormones, adrenaline?
Yes.
We as Black folk know more about adrenaline than anybody.
Yes,
Because this is the result. Adrenaline kicks in stressful situations. Who lives under more stress than us? Right. And as a result of that stress, your blood pressure goes up. Simple as that.
That's the correlation, right?
That's what they call it. Motor affect your kidneys and your heart. Okay? Now, diabetes, we don't exercise like we're supposed to. Back in, years ago, we had hard job, we had to work hard and all that. But look at it this way, we didn't live as long years ago, we got those other problems. Okay? So they all intertwine. That's why. But look at that. Add COVID to that. You really in a fix. Add COVID to that. So we're in a bad situation, but we can overcome it. But let me tell you this. You talk about conspiracy theory, and I still believe this. He said, I would take that shot. I believe it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you can push Black folk to vote. Need to vote. Georgia, we got senators and all that. Mary Ann, and going to the poll, let that guy go and have a choice. Can I? Think about it, okay? Think about it. Thank y'all very much.
Good stuff, Doc. Good stuff.
Sorry to go on your time.
No, you did great.
Well, let me tell you this. Look, I got to tell you this.
Come on.
Let me tell you this. We talk about misinformation. I've been blessed. I got a grant from CDC talking about this misinformation. Now, you know, people go around and they said, we give you $100 to take a shot, which ain't a bad deal. You really think about it. You go to the hospital and save them maybe $100,000. But I tell you, my project was to stop misinformation. So what I did, we do a lot of feeding when people drive through the lines. I said, I tell you what we're gonna do. I got a survey here. We're gonna give you a card. I want you to tell me the reasons why you took the shot, why you didn't take the shot, and people who you know didn't take the shot, give me some of the reasons why they said they wouldn't take the shot. I give you $25 gift card. You should see some of the craziness I got back. Something you wouldn't believe. The Lord told me last night that
Come on.
I mean, stuff like that.
Come on.
But that's been a whole bunch of them. Yeah. My friends cycle went 3 months from that, or my wife left because she.
I understand.
All right, I'm just telling you, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And just fact check, okay? And I'm sorry to go on the time. I'm sorry to go.
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Amen. I mean that he had a lot of information for such a short time, even though it was 30 or 40 minutes. He's not giving you what he has learned over the years and research and being part of the medical field. I'm sure that the information that he has will take several days to give to us. So he put it in impact and gave it to us today. Thank you, as they all have said, the minute today is busy. You know that people are waiting on you for certain things. And so we appreciate you coming and blessing us. And I hope that we take what he said today very seriously, because we want to live, because we are great people. We got great work to do. And you can't do it if you're not living, you can't do what you've been commissioned to do. I think all of us do something in this life. Amen. All right. Again, come on, give him a round of applause. We're going to have Dr. Carnegie come, and he's going to give us some information, and then we'll probably end up, with remarks, and then he have last word, then we'll make benediction. I just want to say my little piece just before I come back. I truly thank all of you for being here. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to serve with Men of Change. Many individuals have been changed. Their lives have been turned around based on this program. And my brother, I told him on the way up, we talk all the time, that what God has blessed him with, I know for a fact that God gave him what he does. And just the life change that people have had, tell me that God will have some thank you for your due diligence and staying on the wall. Amen. Then I want to thank my new brothers. My heart goes out because you took time out of your schedule and y'all flew this way to be a part of this. And I'll be grateful for seeing your face here. And like I said, we're on Zoom. You laid out the profile. Thank God for that. And we're going to see greater things in the future. And definitely all those that men have changed. Thank you for what you do to support my brother and what God has given him.
Yes, sir. We thank you, Bishop. Go ahead, Deacon. Yes, sir. Yeah.
This is actually directly focused towards Men of Change. You know, and this man here has put this thing together. We've been working at what now? Close to 10 years.
That's right.
Close to 10 years. Now, I want to emphasize something that I think is vitally important. You know, man is made up of spirit, soul, and body, triumph being. Okay, and you see bishops and preachers speaking to the soul, or they speak to the spirit of man, and then you have the body. Well, what we focus on, this man is gifted. He has a PhD in psychology. He's a counselor. We're having skilled people come in here to speak directly to your soul, your mind, your spirit, and your body. Because what good is for you to go out and carry out the task that God has before you when you're feeble, when you got issues, you got problems. He is gifted in that area. And our whole focus is to focus on the mind, the will, and the soul. We come in here and teach you things that most churches never take on. We came here and talked to you about COVID-19. We talked to you about CRT. We talked to you about different things to give you a conclusion of what it is. So Men of Change, Dr. Kennedy, I appreciate you asking me to be a part of it. And now I see the full effect of what this ministry is doing. And I applaud you for that.
Yes, sir.
I really do. And all of those that's on the board, that I think we're doing effectively what God will have us to do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Deacon and I went to high school together. He's a real good friend of ours. We met when we was in junior high school. We was talking about this the other day. And you know, sometimes it's funny how God keeps you and allow us to see, you know, cascading through the years of our lives, how people come and go for a season. Some come, some go, some remain. And God does this all by design. It's all purpose. And it's for a reason. So let me just say real quick, I want to do a quick recap. As I said earlier, we've had some powerful word of encouragement and information to come through this weekend. We started with our own Men of Change discussion session where with our steering committee and the members, where we got together and connected to those that may have been watching our live stream or that was part of the YouTube piece and talked about conflict. And I just want to touch a little bit on the essence of what we talked about, because conflict is something that we all face. It's something that we all go through. It's something that we all experience. And so when it started, Deacon Jones did an awesome presentation piece where he talked about starting from the lower form of conflict and understanding disagreement in the home with individuals and that people have at large. It morphed. The bishop dovetailed off of what he talked about and started talking about conflict from a church perspective. And then we kind of closed where we talked about marrying the two. But it really starts back to our relationship with God. Now, as I look at our youth that's sitting back here today, and I want to speak directly to you and then I'll transition. Guys, let me do a quick segue. We are about a little under an hour before lunch is going to be prepared. We're having a catered lunch by local vendor here, RJ's. They're going to be preparing. We're going to send over and get the food. We're going to set up. There's going to be plenty of food for everybody, so don't worry about it. You know, we'll have a real good luncheon. And when I finish, I'm not going to be long. The ones that don't know me, I'm a type of guy that I come up, whatever God gives me, I try to make it concise because I wanted to hit hard, but I don't think it takes all day. So I'm going to give my piece. I'm going to move out of the way. And if any of you all have any questions about anything that you've heard, I'm going to ask the bishop to stick around, Bishop Wiltshire, Deacon Lofton, who's also very, very instrumental, has a background in administration, has his master's in education, and really understands from a business acumen. And we have guys like Deacon Jones and Deacon Newsom here, who are federal workers, retired, that really understand the nuances about industry and working in those kind of areas. So you're gonna have a whole host of
information that you can pull from if you have any questions or you have any things that you want to get off your chest before we have lunch or whatever. So with that being said, let me go back to what I was saying originally. Conflict is something that we can't get away from. You're gonna have conflict. The thing is that conflict undealt with, unattended to, escalate to what we know as a crisis. When a situation goes from being a disagreement, not understanding, misunderstanding, miscommunication, it escalates to a crisis. Now, crisis is a word that comes from a Chinese root word that means both opportunity and also a chance for there to be disaster. That's what research shows is the true meaning, the art behind a crisis, which comes from what I said initially, conflict, a disagreement. But here's what I want to say. Here's where I want to drop down and then I'll transition. When we are conflicted and when we find ourselves in the crosshairs of a disagreement, more times than not, I think about myself and the people that sit across my desk, the people that I talk to online. When the conflict escalates, they forget what the real essence of the difference was all about. It becomes personal.
What are we fighting about?
I'm trying to win. But when a situation hit crisis, that's when it becomes toxic. It has an opportunity to become explosive. People can get hurt. People can be insulted, so insulted, say something so great that it takes people weeks, months, and years to recover from. And I want to be plain with this. When you put something, project some words out, your mouth about someone or say something to someone that damage the closeness of that relationship, you can't rewind it. It's out there. And the person that you victimize have anniversaries of that situation, and what you say reverberates over and over and over in their head. And that's what takes it so long for someone to get over something. Because we have that automatic playback. But see, here's where this has to go. This is what has to be done. When there is a conflict, when you've been hurt, when somebody has said something to you, when you see it, as I was describing yesterday, that hydraulic pressure syndrome, where it builds up, builds up, builds up, and the pressure's getting higher and higher. Before it reaches explosion, say what it is that you need to say, but there's another part that we lose that most of us, especially people of color, don't get. And I, put up both of my hands, have to admit this first and foremost. I was the type of person that wanted to project what I was thinking, project what I felt, project what I see, and I heard you, but I didn't hear you because I was so caught up into my thinking. So now, when I hit hard and fast and I tell you what it is that I want to say, I purposely, I intentionally, emphatically say, I need to hear what's on your mind. Because now I need to marry up what I'm thinking and what I felt and what I said to you, if it coincides with what you're thinking. And where the differences are, we can work through them together. As I was reading some text for a certification that I'm working on now, it was saying in the reading and in the reading material that we have to learn how to disagree, disagreeable. Meaning that you walk away from a situation understanding that we're not on the same sheet of music about this. Your perception is this, my perception is that, and that's okay. We're gonna move forward knowing that we both have two different perceptions on it, but that's all good. Case in point, a lot of us watch sports, a lot of us watch games. We can sit around, watch a basketball game, watch a boxing match, whatever the case may be, and walk away 9 times out of 10, unless you like the same team, the same boxer, same baseball player, you'll have a different perspective.
And the confrontation can go back and forth about who's the best. And that's okay. But if you like that person and you respect them being a savant of whatever the sport is, be it basketball, be it boxing or whatever, you can respect their opinion. It's not yours. So Dick can get in on this. You know, this started back when we was in grade school. I mostly like the basketball players and the football players that mostly people didn't like. And I had an argument in support for why I liked them. But a lot of people, and he knew it, like to argue with me because of the energy that I brought. They didn't have any academia. They didn't study the players. They wasn't a savant of the sport to really be able to defend. They enjoyed the confrontation of I'm going against him. And I would pull right into it. So now I speak my piece. If you see it, you don't see it. I'll say this and then I'll transition. A lot of people right now is giving Floyd Mayweather Jr. a real hard time. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but I gotta go. They are wearing him out. But again, watch me now. I'm a student of the game. I have been watching boxing ever since I was in elementary school. And it's real crazy when me and my wife started dating and when we got engaged, my mother-in-law from New York is a big boxing fan. So I really started pulling into it because I used to watch it when it used to come on ABC and the other station, and then it went away and got on cable. And when I was in college and in high school, we really didn't have cable. So I lost my connectivity to boxing. But when I got married, me and my wife got our first home. We was out in the country in no man land. We were so far out in the sticks that they didn't have cable. So we got a satellite. I said, we can't stay in this house without some form of what's going on in the world. We got a satellite. So I started buying fights. I said all that to say this. I started watching guys like Floyd Mayweather Jr., Floyd Mayweather Jr., Roy Jones Jr., and some of the other guys. But here's where I'm going with this. People argue this today, but I'm gonna give a few facts and then I'm gonna digress. In my personal opinion, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the best that ever laced them up. And I want you to stay with me because I'm gonna get hard and fast and I'm gonna get up out of this. He's accomplished so much in a very little bit of time. This guy walked on the scene from the streets of outside of Detroit in Michigan. Dad was a boxer, got into the game, got strung out on drugs, had another brother that was in the boxing game. He fell into the addiction thing. Then they have the younger brother now that promotes a lot of the Mayweather promotions on the YouTube channel, which I subscribe to. And I follow that family because there's something unique. This guy was a student of the game. I want you to hear me. If you don't even like him, that's okay. But I want you to take from what I've taken from his lifestyle. And that is, this young man is dedicated to learn all he can about the craft, the art of boxing. He knows who boxed who lost. He studied films. He shows to show where their weakness was, where their strength was. And he did that and was successful over a 20-year period. And as a professional, you can argue with it all you want. As a professional, he has 0 losses on his record. And I'm a winner in life. I'm sorry. Anybody else can stand there toe-to-toe and act like you're a robot. You get hit side your head and get hit back. That's okay. If I can climb in the ring and control my own destiny, hit and not get hit, and walk away from one fight with over $300 million in my pocket, as my uncle could say, I want some of that. I want some of that. Look at it. The guy's 44 years old and look like he's 23. Because he learned his craft. My personal opinion, he's one of the best to ever do it. I went back and looked at some of the early fights, and a lot of people talk about Muhammad Ali. I saw what Muhammad Ali did in his life, but I also saw Muhammad Ali take a lot of undue punishment. And in my personal opinion, I saw him lose 2 controversial fights early in his career. He got thundered, he got rocked.
He lost those 2 fights. One, he cut a guy, a Caucasian guy, that saved him. The other guy, in my opinion, they flat out gave it to him because that guy beat Muhammad Ali from go 1 to go 12. He lost that fight. They gave it to him. And you guys know how the story goes. He stayed in the fight game too long, took too many hits, and I think that was part of the demise of his early dying because, in my opinion, he died way too soon. Man had too much left in him, but because of the trauma that he had taken. So I say all that to say this. In conflict and in living life, we need to be able to take what those forerunners, those people that's in your community, those people that's in your life, positively, and see what they've done in life, the bad decisions that they make, and don't make those. Make better decisions. Learn from those. Learn from their craft. Learn from their mistakes. Learn for their overcoming. Learn for them their successes. And we all can, succeed. It doesn't matter, what you feel like your calling is or what your gift is. You can succeed in life, but you got to have the right mindset. And you got to understand that conflicts and differences will come. And I'm spending a lot of time on that because this is going to be part of my message today, is that when we understand time and we understand what is and what's not, there's a lot of needless conflict that's going on in the world today. It don't need to be so, but it's here. And it's here because people don't know how to come to terms and come together and be able to reason, as the Bible says. Reasoning has gone. Now it's my way or the highway. As we was talking about last night, I've learned how to become a gangster that even when I lose, I still win. I cheat. I'm going to win regardless. And that's what we're having going on in our country today. So with that being the case, I'm going to grab my notes here. If y'all want to take about 10 minutes, give me about 15, 20 minutes. I want to talk to you very plainly and very clear. And I want to do it from a succinct fashion where we look at and think about what is before us and what is not before us. And what does those 2 aspects really mean in this current climate? We're going to get down into what is, what's not, and what that means for me in the current environment, the current climate. So take about 10 minutes. Let me grab my notes. We're going to get started. Give me about 15, 20 minutes. I'll turn you guys loose and we'll have lunch. And right before lunch, if there's any questions, any comments, we entertain those. And then we're going to dismiss for the rest of the day.
No.
You got something?
Go.
Yes.
Imagine this. Heading to Kentucky, spoon calls on the phone. Basketball.
Yeah.
I'm 5 hours down the road.
That's the way it goes, bro. That's passion. He knows it. He's been into it. He knows it.
Imagine.
We'll get with that on the flip flop. Okay, let us get started. Quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I come to you humbly this afternoon, this morning, give you praise, honor, thanks, and glory. Thank you for everything that you've already accomplished. Thank you for everything that you have done and that you're going to do. I ask you to touch my lips afresh from the coals of your altar. Help me to speak your word, to give the mandate, Father, to give clarification where you've ordained in this season. If you'll do these few things, I'll be so careful to give your name all the honor, praise, and glory that is due. Jesus' holy, righteous, magnificent name, I pray. Amen. Amen. So I want to talk just a few more moments about understanding the principles of what is and what's not. And so by doing, let me start off by saying, no debate, no questions asked. Jesus Christ, the Yeshua HaMashiach, the Hebraic name, is the Son of the living God. So first of all, just kind of let that go in your mind. when I compare that to what is, what's not, what's happening, what's not, my source, my connection point in life is him. Now, if we think about a computer or TV or anything that has to run off power, has to run off of a source. When the source becomes disrupted, whatever that may be in life, the situation or the piece of equipment or whatever it is, technology, it doesn't work. Because the source where it gets its power from has been interrupted. So in life, understanding what is and what's not, and I'm trying to unravel and figure out sometimes when it feels like that I'm faced on and pushed in from every side and from every angle, that's the first thing I need to remember, okay? That he is the Son of the living God and he is God. Just talking about a couple of things here to iron out before I move on, because I may won't get a chance to double back to this. The God factor in my life, and sometimes we forget, even us that are believers that have been walking this thing for a long time, forget that we have a resource and a source in our life that makes the difference. But sometimes I think we look at our status, we look at our accomplishments, we look at our money, we look at our title, we look at how people look at us, and we don't feel like we need to really rely on that. But I want to take us back, as we was talking about in our discussion last night, going back to the first love. My first love is to understand the importance of who I'm connected to that makes a difference in those hard times, those dark times, and in between times. Next thing that I want to follow up and make unequivocally known, that he can't fail and he won't lie. That's not the gospel according to Dalton. That's the gospel according to his word. God can't fail, he won't lie. He is the Son of God and he is God. So you guys in the back, hopefully most of the older believers in here understand that. How can God be the Son of God and God? Because now you're talking about two different entities operating in two different dimensions, but they are completely aligned, and when one speaks, the other speaks. That was Christ's word. When I speak as the Father unctions or give me to speak. That I say is not for myself. He only says what God the Father permits him to say. So when we living in our lives and going through day-to-day situations, what should be coming out of our mouth is what God has placed inside of us. But let's go here. If we live our life daily, going through the hustle and bustle of life, and we don't fuel ourselves with the right fueling, when we have to pull out of ourselves to react and to deal with the stressors in life, we have nothing to pull from. So there has to be a word source. There has to be a reservoir. There has to be a well inside of us that we pull from. And once we do that, we'll remember that his faithfulness is unwavering. It gives us empowerment to the point that we live in a way that our life is more abundantly, and that still holds true to any situation that we may encounter. That word is incorruptible. That means it won't fail, it won't change. There's no lies in that, there's no hypocrisy. So sometimes if our faith get a little bit wavered, or sometimes it's hard for us to believe and connect to some things before us, know that the hypocrisy is not in God. It's not in the source. The hypocrisy is in us. The way that we look at it, the way that we process it, or either the way that we are responding. We don't never have to check God's power source. When there is a disconnect and when we're not getting what we think we should, we need to check us.
And I think that's sometimes things that we forget. We forget to check on us and to analyze and to make sure that all our connections are good. Okay? 3 principles that I want to talk about, and I'll be right out of the way. The first thing that I want to talk about, the social upheaval and the civil unrest that's going on in our communities, in our world, in our areas. Is it right? Is it wrong? Next question is it of God? Is it not? And what do you believe will be the outcome of all of this? Now, these are questions that we can ask ourselves, and we may not have the answer now, but we should get to a place of resolve and resolute in our mind where we can ask ourselves, is what's going on today, is it right or is it not? Is it of God, is it not? And what the outcome will be. And I'll come back to that before I close to give my take on that according to what God's word has revealed to me. The next point that I want to tap on is the COVID-19 pandemic that Dr. Williams has just done a powerful and a magnificent job on. Same question. Is it right to be vaccinated? Is it wrong to be vaccinated? Is this highly contagious disease that's ravaging our land, is it of God, is it not? And what will the outcome eventually look like? Okay? Let me do this. I want to make this interactive. I don't want to just sit up here and lecture and dictate. I want someone to just take a couple of minutes, a minute or so, and give the rest of us your take and your understanding on the COVID-19 situation, everything that you heard from Dr. Williams, what you know and understand. Number one, do you feel like it's right? Nobody's to pressure you. So nobody, don't feel pressure. Just talking, straight talk. Because this is what we do on Saturday morning, the Men of Change, every second Saturday. We get on and we do what we call straight talk. Nobody's under pressure. We pull out our swords, we lay them down, and we talk straight talk. So anybody want to take that? Do you feel like it's right or wrong? Is God the author, or is he the cause of this rampant disease? And then give your take on what you think it's going to look like. Go ahead.
Honestly, I feel like in the Bible, you know what I mean? God said, different things like, the sea turning red, the bugs and all of that stuff. I feel like this is just another sign of the last days. I don't feel like the government put it out here like something we're saying. I honestly feel like this is just, I said it's going to be famine, disease, whether the climate changes in the last days, always been going on. I just feel like it's just one more thing in the society trying to get our life right, because people are dying left and right from the disease. And sometimes people who not listening and not following the rules, just like in the Bible, when they didn't want to listen to follow the rules, they died. Or they got injured. So I feel like that's what this is. I feel like it's God. I got vaccinated, but I do feel like it's God.
Right? How do you think it's going to eventually look? What are your projection on from what you hear, what you believe, what you see when you go from day to day, out in the street and out in the world? How do you foresee, how do you picture things shaping up eventually?
I don't think it's gonna get no better because ain't nobody making no effort for it to get better. Don't nobody want to get vaccines. Everybody got their own theories on what's here, and then you got people who are skeptical about the vaccine and think it's the government. I think that's a move between, the people who think it's the government and people who think it's God. The people who think it's God, 9 times out of 10, they might get that vaccine, but the people who think it's the government, they gonna go out, the government put this up in years, they trying to kill us, I'm not gonna get this vaccine. You know what I mean? So I look at it both ways, but I got the vaccine.
Okay.
I want to be obedient, I'm ready to die. And I don't feel like it's the government, I feel like it's God.
Okay. Thank you for your input. It gave me something to think about a little bit, because of the way that you phrased that, the way you put it together, I hadn't quite thought about it and looked at it from that perspective. So thank you for your input. Next, you was gonna say?
I think that's the mark of the beast. I think that's the mark. Basically, say put there, and the other guys talk about it a lot.
Okay,
But I got my first vaccine. I missed the second one, so I have to figure out what's going to go on. But I think it's just like the last day.
okay, I'm gonna definitely have some of the staff to chime in and weigh in on that, just to bring some clarity. But before I do, I want to do a little bit of a pushback and find out what is your source or what is your reasoning for feeling that this is the mark of the beast? What shaped that idea in your head?
I've seen little things over the past few years, of like little microchips and stuff that they can put in the shop and stuff like that. And the thing people forget and get it before. So my mom wanted to sit there and came with that. And I've been looking up stuff and looking at stuff. And that's just a theory, but
Okay, well, let me just say this. I am a quality and compliance principal level quality and compliance consultant in the large molecule, small molecule, as well as med devices in the industry. And I want to push back and give you a little reality. I have not seen a microscopic chip small enough that could be injectable. Now, I'm not saying that it don't exist. I'm not aware of it. Okay? Because what you're saying is basically you've got to have the ingenuity to create something that cannot be seen and work, basically. Because when we talk about microchips, people don't understand that. A microchip is a small or a mini computer. And my brother can contest to that because that's more in his lane, his wheelhouse when we deal with technology. So I don't. And part of my job as a principal quality auditor is to be out in the floor areas, in the shop, and watch these manufacturing, because right now I'm a consultant at the J&J plant in Baltimore, Maryland. They have a distributor, a merchant, and they have gotten in trouble with the FDA. And my team's job is to be in there and monitor these manufacturing processes and their validation practices to make sure that they're in compliance. But as I look at these various mixtures and these containers and all of these bioreactors and these room rockers, where it actually shakes and mixes the material and separates, and it goes through the stripping process and the growing process, and they re-strip it and they regrow it and they produce it, and they make these bags of solution, media solution with live cells in it that goes off to various manufacturing places. I would completely and totally push back on that. I don't think it's possible. I won't say it though, because you can never say never, because the world changes daily. My knowledge, understanding formulation, I know a bunch of formulation scientists. I don't see that taking place. But now I want, for your own sake, just to hear some different perspectives. If either one of the bishops, Deacon Lofton, Deacon Newsom, Deacon Jones, if you guys even want to have anything that you all can kind of put to that, and I know Bishop had something, so we'll start with here. And then if you guys will take a couple of seconds and give your spin, I'll hit my other point, do a quick wrap up, and we'll be done.
I just want to ask a question. The question proposed that you think it's the mark of the beast. Is that what I heard? What is the definition of that?
And I would say, is it the movie Left Behind? That kind of, like I said, it's a theory. But I don't know how it would possibly be vaccine. Like I said, it must be false, but everything they said the last days since the chip.
Bishop got something on that chip. We just talked about the chip last night. So we'll bounce back to that in a minute. Hold tight.
It's trolling down my head now. It's like, okay, that's not good.
Let me help you. Why you address? Let me help.
Please.
You're not wrong and you're not right, but you get. So you just need some facts to tweak what you get. What it is you're getting a discernment or a download of what's happening. What's making you on point is you're right. You are in that aspect. You're just missing the facts to support what you get. You got what I'm saying? So I want to put your mind at ease, because I see you struggling with, I might be wrong, but you're getting something. You got what I'm saying? So what we're going to do before we walk out of here is to help you rightly divide, give you the facts you need, and fine tune what you're getting. All right, good.
And he made the point of, you got to be able to divide the understanding of what you're feeling. You can leave here with vast information, but still be confused. And so the thing is, if you are an engineer or you understand what he just mentioned, you have to be super intelligent for me to even think that I can make a chip that small to go through the needle. Because unless it's in quantum, unless when it injects the body, it has a way to find its way to get together and become one. Then what do you expect to happen, even if, I'm just using this theory, if it was a chip, what do you expect to happen to you with the chip? So you gotta have all these reasons, you gotta have all this understanding, because just hearing stuff is not intelligent to me. I need to know what it is. I need to know what is gonna make me act crazy, go home. And you just think of it. So do your research. And I wasn't at the fire pit last night, but I understood they did something powerful and control. Find good resources about what you feel. Yeah. Because you can still be confused based on your own ideology. So you gotta have an understanding. We're starting to think, you know, when I first heard about the shop, I said, because people said market beast. So that's really nice. What is it? You know, when people say what's in the Bible, well, read it in context. What's talking about, you know, especially when it comes out of Revelation, and you know, then understand what you are saying before you say it. And then when you say it, understand what you're saying, even with what you believe, based on the knowledge and the information you receive. It's sound and because the doctor that was here, he explained some things. So I hope that you heard what he said. He wasn't just talking off the cuff. Right. You know, it's research, it's science. And I don't think anybody that will listen to sound doctrine, you can divide the word of truth by allowing the spirit talking to you about life. Your life is valuable to God. And I don't think you can shut down the world just based on one man developing the chip to you in the sport. That's just my opinion.
Man, anybody else want to weigh in?
Bishop, let me give you some biblical fact about the mark. It's biblical truth, but let's use it in terms of fact. The mark of the beast is a biblical reality that if you accept it, comes the judgment of God. Now, here's the reality of that. For you to accept it, for God to judge you, you have to know what to accept. If you're taking the vaccination and they slide it in, that's not your acceptance, your church. And God can't judge you. Back to, in order for it to be a mark, you can't buy nor sell goods. It's a source of revenue, if you will. You can't pay your rent, you can't go get no food, you can't do nothing, and you can't sell anything. So if you get the vaccination, are you able to go buy something? Can't be the mark. So two things biblically that eliminates the concept that it's the mark. Number one, you go get the vaccination, they'll let you in the restaurants, and they'll let you go, you can spend all your money and you go make some money. You got what I'm saying? It can't be the mark factually, because biblically, it's not that. Spiritually, for God to judge you on it, you have to know it's the mark, and then take it anyway. And now you're denouncing God when you take it. So if they're sliding in you on the vaccination and you don't know, God won't judge you. So it can't be the mark. Now, here's the truth of what you're getting. It's not the mark, but it's preparing you for it. Because from a factual standpoint, the COVID-19 is the one thing, entire history, that infected the entire world at the same time. We all understand that this thing's going to move to a legal position, which means they're gonna have to put together a council that is worldwide to make sure that everybody gets it. Which is where the one world government is gonna come out of. The Antichrist is now going to content itself to that, and then therefore they're going to enforce. So what does the vaccination do that is connected to the mark? It's preparing the world to accept in one unity is one thing that is given by the mark. So it's not the mark, but it is preparing you for it. You got what I'm saying? So that's what you're getting. And it's preparing you because we are in the last days. But we have to understand, biblically speaking, because here's the truth. A relationship with God is not to make your life better. It is to empower you to deal with life so it can be better. You got what I'm saying? So it's not this spiritual. I'm not the kind of cat that's going to just give you a bunch of spiritual words about. No, this is what that means. This is how you apply it. Because at the end of the day, you can't take what it says and actually be able to do it. Now, what's good is, so that's a lot of the problems with what you're hearing. You're hearing all of this stuff without any biblical research. It's clear what the Bible says about the mark. So for folks to spot out, it's mark clear there. You ain't read it then because it clearly can't be that. And I'm telling you what's in here. You got what I'm saying? So what you're doing, and this is what you get in your spirit, you're discerning what's happening. But you're getting for lack of a better term, you're getting ignorant information. No study behind it. But even the Bible speaks to that. Study to show yourself approved unto God. So you get a lot of folks, they get a lot of hype that want to spit out some stuff because it sounds good, but they ain't studied. So it can't come out. You got what I'm saying? So now you see where you're right, but you're wrong.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because now you got the facts of what you're getting, because God told you something, but you got to study. Now that's what they're saying. Don't just take information. You got to fact check. So somebody say, oh, it's a mark. Man, let me go study what the mark is. And you don't even have to go in-depth study. It's right here in the word. It says you ain't gonna buy or sell goods. But if you get the vaccination, man, matter of fact, that opens the door for you to go. My son looks like he can't go to Disneyland because he ain't got the vaccination yet. So now he's gonna hear everything go because he's gonna go to Disneyland. You see what I'm saying? So clearly it ain't the mark, but it is preparing you for it. So when the world government goes, okay, now they got everybody trapped to take something. Y'all need to accept this check because at the end of the day, this is how we gonna run control it. And then and don't buy this piece. Or they're gonna track you with it. If you got one of these, it's tracking you already.
Exactly. You already been in trouble. Already in your phone.
If you got one of these. So no, they ain't trying to track you to know where you at. Are you serious? They got, hey man, they can follow you while you driving. If you walking, they got cameras on there. I didn't vote to put no cameras on them lights.
Yes, sir.
Then them cameras just started showing up.
Yep.
Man, come on, man. They taking pictures of your house from the satellites.
Yes.
And you can do 360 degrees in your neighborhood, man. Y'all looking at stuff. I'm living there and I didn't even notice that.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
So you got what you got now. That you get, but here's what I want to bless you with. God's talking to you.
Good deal.
Because he revealed something to you.
Good deal.
You had the intellect that he's showing you, and I love the way you put it, man. He was like, listen, I might be wrong, but I'm getting something from you. So it's all right to ask. You just got to ask the right people. You got what I'm saying? And what I want to encourage you on is, no, you're not wrong. You just don't have the facts of what God is giving you. And for God to talk to you and reveal it to you, let me tell you something. I'm going to cast the call themselves preachers. They ain't hearing from God.
Come on, Bishop.
You may not be a preacher, but you're hearing something. Because God's talking to you. So you need to check that out. God, why are you talking to me? You got what I'm saying? So where you at and what's going on? And let me tell you something like this here too. Whatever negatives that brought you to this point, without it, you wouldn't be at this point. because you don't remember this moment. Somebody told me God talked to me, and I did get something. So now check that out. Now you gotta understand the call, because you got a calling, bro. You young, and God talking to you like that? I got grown old men that ain't got no sense. Real talk, man. I can't have this conversation. Telling me they read the Bible, you got more sense than they got, and you ain't even reading it yet. Notice I said the term yet. So go check it out, bro. You got something.
Thank you, Bishop. And see, this is what it's all about in this season. Going right back into understanding what is, what's not. You need to have credible information that's from the source. And think about everything that we've had so far. Now, we had a professor that understands, broke down critical race theory, the whole project. He went through the story of what happened with Dr. Hannah Jones, how she was, basically blackballed, and what the whole thing UNC done to her. And then we go and we look at everything that Dr. Williams talked about today, and Brother Ryan. These guys are from the source. Dr. Williams specializes in, he is a multifaceted man. Sometimes it seems like he's a little this, that, or the other, because he's got so much going on. He has a specialization as an OBGYN. He has a specialization in addiction medicine, and he also has a specialization in mental health. This guy sitting here, you guys don't know what was in your midst. He practiced his residency at Johns Hopkins. Okay, Dr. Williams is not a lightweight. He's very fidgety because he's got a lot on his plate. And that was the substance abuse hotline blowing up his phone, because that shows you the path that we're on when it comes to substance abuse in this country today. He literally got burned out with the mental health. So he switched over into substance abuse and thought he'd catch a break, and he's getting burned again because the world is hurting.
Yes.
But I like what the bishop said, and I got to dovetail off what he said. It's about the source. Who are we getting our information? I wouldn't dare the opportunity and the platform that God has given me to bring people in here and to talk about a lot of stuff that I didn't understand and that I didn't know about when I didn't have all the facts. I don't have all the facts, but God has recognized and given me favor the way that Bishop Wiltshire and I, like brothers, how we met. It was incidental, it was coincidental. But now talking to this guy, we bonding and we talking on a weekly and every other weekly basis. I feel like I've known this guy for half of my life. But one thing that I have to give credit to and credit to, this guy is a man of the gospel. I know this because God speaks to me. So when we started talking, I told him, I said, I understand the energy that's coming through our Zoom. This is a spiritual thing. This guy knows the word. And that's what I'm drawn to and attracted to. Because as you said, theories in the science world, so let me put on another hat and come to you from a science perspective. Theories are ideas and ideologies that has not gotten to the point where it has the science or the validation to confirm it. That's what a theory is. So when people now like to use the catchphrase, theoretically speaking, I don't want to hear your theoretical speaking, because your theoretical speaking could be wrong, because it has not been validated, it has not been confirmed. So let me go to the word and then I'll transition. In the word, it talked about, I want to believe it was in Isaiah, where the story was talked about going from a place and point in our life where we believe to when we know. So the story was a situation, I can't remember verbatim word for word, is that the word of the Lord came to him and told him to buy some land. He believed he heard from God, Isaiah that is. And the confirmation was, henceforward, within the next day or so, his nephew came to him
and made a proposition of the revelation that he had gotten from God. And everything was to the letter of what God had given him. And he bought the land as it was indicated to him to do so. But as it stated in the scripture, he said he went from a point that I believed, but after God gave him revelation, now I know. We're living in a perilous time and in end days where we go from believing to knowing. The knowing piece come in when God transitions us from one point to the next, that he reveals and make manifested those things that we believe. But I also want to leave in your hearing today, don't lose your belief system. Don't lose your belief factor. That's what's going to keep you steady to your course. And you make your mind up. And that's for all of us, that we're going to believe until change comes, as the songstress sung last night. The old song, I believe that a change is going to come. But in that song, I think it was Sam Cooke, he goes through a whole rendition of things that he had to do, that he was going to do, to enable himself to hang on and to hang in there. Because he said, I know change is going to come. But until that change comes, I got to stay in there. So that's kind of what I wanted to hit that with. So definitely thank the men of God for Bishop and Bishop to bring some clarification. So the next point, the last point that I wanted to make about what is and what's not, the power of faith unwaveringly, unmistakably works. So when we think about everything that's going on, about social upheaval, we think about COVID. Now, the last point that I want to talk about, make reference to, is my power of faith is the antidote or the remedy to the two previous points that I made. This is the punchline. This is the kicker. In order for me to be successful and to make it through from what I'm seeing to what I'm not seeing, to things to be manifested, I've got to operate in a spirit of faith. I've got to believe and trust God in spite of it. Doesn't matter what I see. That's what the power of my faith does. The power of my faith brings manifestation, because God's words tell me that before the end of time, that there would become such a shaking. That means there's going to be so much going on that if you are not really grounded and rooted, even us that have been elected and that have been chosen and that have been set aside by God, if we ain't careful, we would get fooled. We would get blindsided. So even when I'm not sure, as I was sharing with the brothers last night, I went through a point in place in my life where I didn't know how, I wasn't sure, but I prayed a prayer of faith and said, God, I want to see what it really, really feels like for you to allow it to rain on me. And I believe that. Now, let me say this. I had no function, I had no ideology how this was going to happen. I have a clue. I did not have a clue. I did not know that I was going to have to walk away from the work industry, punching the clock, having a job, 401k, health benefits, all of this, to going into a realm of work where I literally have nothing. My wife asked me when I decided to go in consultant, did I lose my mind? Because she couldn't see it. She's like, we got a child, we got bills. You ain't got no 401k, you ain't got no insurance. She's like, what are you thinking? Really didn't have any answers. My answer, my reply was her, and I remember very vividly, do you trust me? Just trust me on this, because I don't have the answers. I don't know. But just trust me on this. 3 weeks, I received a phone call. Won't get into, putting anybody on blast, from the company that gave me my first contract. My second paycheck, I was on what they call they have a pay 30, pay 45, or when you have your own corporation, you can be on weekly pay.
So I was set up with my new incorporation on a pay 30. My second paycheck, I checked my account that morning, the day that I knew I was supposed to have gotten paid, and I couldn't believe it. I've been working in the industry for almost 21 years. I had never seen that much money in one paycheck in my entire life. I had never seen it. Won't get into all the specifics because it's not here or there. The point that I'm trying to make is that when you ask God for something, believe him regardless of what comes or goes. Because I had no answers. I can't sit here and lie to you guys and give you a whole bunch of hocus pocus. God showed me this, and it was going to come like this. I would be lying. I don't play with God like that. I trusted him, and he delivered. Okay. Couple other points that I want to make, and I'll be done. So in perilous times, the breadth, the width, the depth, and the height of our faith must be demonstrated to show that we have consistent belief and trust in God, and God is faithful and he's consistent toward man. We have to be consistent in our faith, in our belief, in spite of whatever we go through, and we have to know reciprocally that God is faithful and he's consistent toward us. Remember, that was the first thing that I said. He can't lie and he won't fail. So that should bring about some hope. Now, the greatest thing that we have as believers, and I know some brothers can help me out on this, as us believing in God and Christ, is that it's not in something that's an idol. It's not something that we can't have any kind of parallel to, because the doctrine that we follow and the doctrine that we read and that we govern our lives to tells us about one crucial aspect: resurrection. There's no other religion, there's no other faith out there other than believing in God and being connected to Christ that goes through resurrection. That means something has died, went away, no longer alive, and lives again. That should generate some kind of hope in us. That means that I can go from one point in my life where it seems like nothing is living, nothing is moving, nothing is happening, into a point and place in my life where I'm in overflow. That's part of where God wants to get us to. He's not a scorekeeper. He does not count and keep a record of what we done wrong and what we done right once we come to repentance and start to walk in salvation. He does not do things to show the world or to put, things to be done in a form of fashion or grandstanding or to make a political stance. God does things according to his divine will and his divine purpose. There's a reason for it. And it's normally to get us from one place to the next. God desires that we as believers aim and pursue righteousness according to Matthew chapter 6, 25 through 31. Now, we also talked about a little bit about that last night. Above anything else in our lives, we know that we have to have provisions to eat. We have to have a place to stay. We have to have money, to pay our bills and a car to get around and this, that, or the other. But according to the word, it don't want us to focus on those things. We are to be aware of those things. We to know that we need those things, but he don't want us to focus on that. The word says that we should aim, bring to focus, and then go after, pursue it, righteousness. Now, let me break that down a little bit and talk about righteousness. Righteousness is to be upright and to be in right standing with God. That means that my up and down vertical relationship, my download that I was just talking about, is intact. That means that I'm not waffling, I'm not wavering. I don't have one foot in the world in sin, and I have another foot in the kingdom. You can't have a foot in the kingdom of God and one in the world. You can't. You're in the world, but you can't acquiesce and become the world. You can't be functioning in theories. You can't be moved by everything that you read on a blog. You can't be moved by everything somebody tell you that they had a dream about. Sometimes that dream could be those bad dreams that they had, or some chicken or whatever. They give you a dream that they have, they give you a thought that they have, you check that thing in the word, as the bishop said. Show me where it is in the word. And when they give it to you in the word, you go there. God has given us all the ability to reason and understand, and you verify, see if it squares. And if it don't take it. Last thing that I want to say, when it comes to really understanding what is and what's not, and being able to navigate ourselves through the complexities of life in this day, we have to shun or spawn those things that generate anger, resentment, and contention, and turn our face to God, and to have prayer, and to have hope. Hope is the precursor, or puts us on the way of actually receiving from God. We got to keep that hope. It's connected to my faith. If I'm faithful, then I have to be faithful in something that, generates an expectation. So I look at hope and expectation as the same thing. I'm believing God for something, but I'm hoping for what I believe in for. There's an expectation that something is coming. But then here's where we have to go with this. We can't put God in a box that I'm looking for God to come down Skinner Street, make a right over here on Chestnut. That may not happen. God may come down 2 streets down and come all the way around and then come through Chestnut. But guess what? He still came. What difference does it make? Because he knows what it takes to get us where he wants us. So he ain't gonna do what we think, what we expect, what we're expecting per se. He's gonna show up because we're expecting him to show up, but not in the way that people want to box God, that he has to bless me. Well, God, if I need a house, I need a car, I need this. So what if God does put you in a place where it may not be a house, it may be a safe haven for you to rest, something that you can afford. He give you money to be sufficient to take care of your bills, and he don't give you a Lexus, he give you a nice used car that's dependable to take you from point A to point B. So then you sit up and you mad, because this ain't what I asked God for. I wanted a Lexus with a 2-story house, with a swimming pool in the back, with a 75-inch high def on the wall. This is the mindset. And if I don't get it, now I'm mad. So then let me do this and I'm done. God is not Santa Claus. He don't come bearing gifts to make us happy, to tickle our egos. God is not a microwave where you make your request, press 2 minutes, voila, you have it. God knows exactly what it takes to get us where we need to be. He knows what we need. He knows when we need it. He knows how we need it. And he's not going to move any other way other than what he knows that it's going to take to fulfill his purpose. And I'll say that about myself and everyone that's under the sound of my voice this morning, by way of Zoom, by way of the live feed, and that's here in this building today. There's not a single person that's hearing what I'm saying today that this does not apply to. If you're living, if you're breathing today, doesn't matter where you are, what you're going through, or what may be happening, there is a purpose for your existence. In the psychology world, there is a therapy, there is a treatment called existential therapy. Existential therapy is no more than where you are taught to your counsel, your coach, about understanding that there is a reason and there's a rationale for your purpose to live. All right. And so many of us give up on life because of the hand that we've been dealt. When we have a misstep,
a bad argument, we lose a job, we have a fight with somebody, things don't go the way that we want to, then we resort to alternative types of living, be it substance abuse, be it sex, be it pornography, be it to, listening to stuff that's not right, or be it to just a point where you become so frustrated and so consumed that it messes with and that it offsets your mental psyche. Now, let me say this. I've come to understand that a lot of our mental health issues that are perplexing the world today, especially with believers, those that are, call themselves believers, comes from a couple of different reasons. Number one, there is a pervasive spirit of fear in this world like never before. Fear is the root cause. My personal opinion, my research, my own personal experiences, and dealing with hundreds of others is a source of fear. And fear is because we don't know, we can't see it, we can't predict it, we become agitated and we become afraid. We become, quote unquote, what we know as worry wars. I've had to learn to understand that in life, it is what it is, and that's okay. Whatever it is, it's okay. And it's not okay necessarily because for so long we used to hear the old thing, well, it's gonna be okay, Dave. It's gonna be okay, young man. It's gonna be okay. That ain't always true. Sometimes God has in my life a purpose that it may get worse before it gets better. But where my joy, my happiness, and my motivation comes is that even if it gets a little bad or gets a little worse, that he's with me. And that's what should excite me. That should what generate hope and cause me to be live. No matter what I'm going through, no matter what somebody told me, no matter what happened last night, last year, or yesterday, God is with me, and because he's with me, everything is going to be all right. Do you all believe that? Do we believe that? Doesn't matter what it is. No. Because God is in the room with me. He walks with me. He talks with me, as the old song said. He calls me his own. Everything has to be okay. Has to be. Not because I can see it, not because I know all the answers. He's here. The Shema factor. He's right here with you in the midst of whatever is going on. So I digress. Thank you for your time. Now I just kind of want to turn it over to individuals that are here with us. Any questions or comments that may be coming in on Zoom, Deacon Newsom, jot them down for us and share them with us. And I'm just going to ask the steering committee staff, our good brother here, who's now partnering and incorporated with from City of Refuge, to be a source to give some answers and to bring some understanding and some clarification. So any questions or any comments that you may have about anything that you heard, anything that has transpired these past couple of days, it's your opportunity to share whatever, ask any questions, do whatever it is that you need to do. The floor is yours.
I be feeling sad when I look at our community right now, like to the point where I really want to share real tears. Like even this morning, trying to get everybody to come to this meeting, knowing that I can't say what nobody else needs, but I know what I see when I'm with someone. You know what I mean? And I know how it makes me feel.
Right.
And so, talking to everybody and trying to get everybody to come to the meeting, it was just like some of the responses I was getting, it wasn't hurting my feelings, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But it was like, are y'all really that naive? It was like, I got one response that was like, I could be empowering them. I already know, so you know everything already. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can never learn too much. There's no such thing. Yeah. You can always learn something new. So it's just like, I be trying to think, how can you get through to somebody? You don't want to be nagging, but at the same time, you want when you see potential in somebody and that they can do better with themselves, they can do better with their life, they can make better decisions. But they got other people in their head saying, no, I'll go this way, you don't gotta listen to her, you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And so that's the type of feeling that affect me. And I be trying to figure out how can you get through to somebody. You know, yeah, you can lead a horse to the road, but you can't make it drink and all that stuff, but it's gotta be somewhere.
Yeah, and one of the things I can say, I would like to speak directly to that. Life has a way of getting people's attention. You know, and sometimes I think Dr. Kennedy talked about a crisis. And he talked about sometimes that we allow things to come into our lives. And I'll just get personal with it, even with my children, my son. He's getting to an age now, he's making decisions. And some of his decisions are not lining up with what I know he knows. But I think this past week, a light went off. You know, he's been in several car accidents, he drank a lot, done various things. And I remember specifically one time about 3 years ago, he got in a car accident and he went to jail. And instead of me getting him out of jail, I went to jail with him. I sat in the jail with him. And I got up to leave. He was like, where you going? Why am I not going? I was like, because I think you need to stay here and understand that some of your actions and your consequences got you. And I left him. So sometimes in life, people get to a point where the light goes on. It's kind of like a revelation. And that sometimes is the best teacher. As we said last night, but there's always someone willing to help. If you're ready to get up and to change your conditions, there's someone there willing to help. So maybe you just speaking a word, just asking them to come. Actually, I'm just glad you came. You blessed me. You know, to be honest with you, we were able to bless you last night. So a lot of your condition has a lot to do with your first step. Yeah. You took a step yesterday, didn't you? Your husband, right? Father of children, right? She took a step yesterday. And sometimes a lot of conditioning comes from taking a step. You keep on motivating, keep on giving them the word, and they have to act upon it. Trust me.
It's just when you know you care about people and you know we live in these bad days, and you know something good, like you in so many people, you just know about them. It's not much out here for me. You know what I mean? It's nothing out here for no single day. You see what I'm saying? Everything is for a woman, a single mother. That's a domestic violence something like men don't get beat up. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, men don't speak out on it, but men still get beat up. Men still need protection from some crazy men. You see what I'm saying? But they don't have none of that out here for men. I be seeing single dads in houses struggling, and they be like, they trying to put the baby mama on food steps, but the DSS office won't let them do it because she's a mother.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm just, in my heart, I just don't feel like it's right. And there should be more things out here.
There's a lot of things wrong with the system. There are a lot of things, and I'll be one person to tell you that. But on the flip side of that, the conscious mind of your condition has to change sometime. And if you don't make it up in your mind, like I said, in your first step to change something, that's where it starts. It starts in that first step of changing your condition and what it is. And that's why we opted to bring these meetings to the community. See, typically we usually end up in a church somewhere. No, we want to come where the situations are, where the people are, so that they can get this information. And these are, like I stated, these are educated people. They got masters, PhDs, bishops. You guys are getting the best cream of the crop. And we bring on
I've been told about it. I'm like, y'all should be.
This man right here, he's a certified counselor with a PhD. He charges probably $200, $300, $400 an hour. Wait a minute. I'm just saying, you know.
You just out there speculating. I could be getting $20.
Okay.
You're a little too deep here.
My point is, just to come in and get information. That's how vital you guys are, this new generation, how important phones and information is to you. It's at your fingertips. It wasn't like that with us. We had to seek after it. So, you know, you guys are in a better position just in taking your first step towards trying to make things change.
It's easy, I think honestly, it's easier to say change, you know what I mean? But it's not as easy as you think it is until you actually do it. You see what I'm saying? Like in this situation, that's a shelter right there. You know what I mean? It's the only shelter in Greenville besides the women's domestic violence shelter. So right now, there's no other shelters. So the way that shelter's set up, they are so evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they are evil. They get donations for the people, for the community that don't give it to them. They say that they're gonna help you find housing, but they only give you 6 months, and in that time, you never see them or talk to them and get no type of help or assistance. Then you out in the streets, 6 months, and they come back. You know what I mean? It's like, it don't matter how hard you try to change, so everybody needs help sometimes. And yeah, the help of God is always there, but sometimes it's always gonna be enough to have God, but you always need somebody else on your side. So you know what I mean? But a positive somebody that when your faith get going live, they can be there to lift you up and still help you get where you need to go. You get what I'm saying?
I got you. Let me help you, sis. And when I say all of y'all, I'm talking to all of y'all. Let me help y'all personally. First off, welcome to ministry. Your question is, how do I convince people to do something that's going to be a benefit to them and they don't even want it?
Yeah, exactly.
Baby girl.
Wait. Don't let that go by. Did you see what he said? Say that one more time.
How can I help someone? Get them to something they need, they don't even want it for themselves.
They don't even want it for themselves.
Now, let me help you. Welcome to ministry. I've been doing this for 15, 20 years. I got a doctorate in divinity, a PhD in theology. I'm a bishop over 3 organizations. I'm a director at the City of Refuge. It's over 20,000 people. Pastor, and preach all over. And I wake up every morning asking that question.
Same question.
You ask that.
I wake up every morning asking that question. All of us, yes. I wake up every morning going to God. I'm upset. What is wrong with these people?
Because it has to be a way.
Well, help me. I'm gonna stay with you now. Now let's go to what he was pointing out. All you can really do is take what's good and benefit yourself, because what God is, like you said, sometimes people need to see something. It's good to hear from God, but sometimes you need to see God in somebody. That's your calling. What your passion is and what you see is not right, you have to become, because you can't see it. So what God is doing is giving you an opportunity to become that which you feel you need to see. So you can become it so someone else can see it in you. You have to become the help you don't have. And what God is doing in this moment, as you all are sitting here talking, you all are discovering your calling in the midst of your need. So God is giving you a direction of where you need to go while you're in need, so you got a focus of what you need to do. So now what you have to do is become what's missing, so that you can be that God that someone needs to see to somebody else. And God is opening this door of opportunity for you to get the help that they don't want, for you to become the help they're going to need. Got what I'm saying?
Ministry is serious, as he alluded. All of us are past the point of preaching in front of thousands and thousands of people. It boils right back down to what he said. How do you give someone something?
Jesus had the same problem.
Same problem. 2,000 years ago.
He's talking to his disciples,
Yes.
who are watching him raise the dead, feeding 4,000 and 5,000 people. And they were challenged to get a spirit out of a kid, and they couldn't do it. His response was, how much longer I suffer with you? Preach it. How long must I be with you for y'all to get it? I'm trying to give you a power
and y'all don't even want it.
This man is from California. You know, he's from Los Angeles, California. He is in Greenville, North Carolina, speaking a word to you. That's how valuable God you are to God.
Because I'm gonna tell you, I knew I had to be here, I just didn't know why.
And I'm happy. I'm happy out here. This man made sure out here.
I'm there, all you guys are there.
You know, so like I tell you guys, you know, to me, I don't know about him. It only takes, as I think Doc said, if I change one life, isn't that what he just said?
Exactly.
If I change one person to do what I asked them to do, then my purpose is fulfilled. Do you not feel the same way? Do you not feel the same way, Bishop? What about you, Deacon? One, we just want one person. We forget the multitudes and the thousands. Sweetheart, like I stated to you, you have been a blessing to me.
Yeah. Oh my God, that presentation man you did. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You've been a blessing to us because we put our time, our efforts, and all of who we are, and our anointing. Each one of us in here are anointed. We've been living a life. I'm 55 years old. I've seen everything. He's seen it. We've done everything. We have reduced ourselves down to asking God, if I change one.
Yeah, that's it.
If I change one. He said that. This man is renowned, that doctor that came here. The people that we're bringing in this conferences are skilled people. Skilled. These are not people that's at the shelter trying to get you to go to bed. These are people that get you up to eat your food in the morning. These are people that's got PhDs, doctrine, bishops, over churches here to talk to you. That's how important you are to us. And it's amazing that all of this is full circle, Dr. Kaneki. It's amazing this is full circle, isn't it?
It is.
I know I wasn't leaving that part without though. I said, there is. Is he gonna be mad at me if I don't go? Yes, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be extra mad. I'm gonna be super mad.
Listen now, but he came and got something he needed.
Yes.
He shared something.
And this thing was going the other direction. I'm talking about I had the person not even about to know because I just wasn't having it. You coming over here today.
As an educator, young lady, in your oratorical speech last night, let me know that what came out of your mouth, that you had some level of education. I'm an educator. I have a master's in education. I've taught at colleges, universities, and I can tell that you are articulate. Because you being articulate means that somewhere down the line, somebody took the time to educate you. How to pronounce your words, how to put your sentences in structure, the basic things. So wherever God takes you, whatever path that you take, trust me, wherever you are and there is a need, God is there. The Bible says where grace is, you know, where grace abounds, where sin abounds, grace abounds. Much more. So you take your gift wherever you have to go. Speak articulately the way that you are. Be yourself. Do what it is. That's ministry. Is it not?
Now let me chime in.
That's ministry.
Where sin is, grace abounds more. That is to let you know, to God, it doesn't matter what you did up to this point.
That's right.
What you did up to this point is what got you to this point. What he's looking now is to influence you to fulfill purpose. You'll never cease to not want to sin. Don't let nobody lie on you
Right.
and get you to believe holy means you don't sin. That's a lie from the devil.
Yes.
Great holy is loving folk who you don't even like. Holy is doing the right thing when everybody around you is doing wrong.
Yes.
And so long as you're in this body, I don't care how old you get. I met an old lady, one of the mothers of the church, and we was chopping up, she kind of quirky. You know, she got a little swag. I said, Mom, look at you. She said, don't get it twisted, honey. She said, old age made me stop doing so much. She said, because at the end of the day, if I was younger, honey, I'd be coming after you. Oh, she said, oh no. She said, look, God used age to get you to stop sinning.
folks, he said, so I thank God for old age, because I still be having a problem. Praise the Lord. And I'm saying that to say that there's nobody in here that don't have a struggle with issues.
No,
So it's saying that actually makes you know you got a relationship with God, because it's the fact that I try not to do what I want to do. The struggle lets me know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So don't let your issues, your hang-ups, whatever that is, man, all that, God uses all that to get you closer to him.
Yes, it is.
So don't let nobody condemn you
No.
behind whatever struggles you got, whatever struggle. Ask God to deliver you from some stuff, you're gonna find new issues. I didn't know I had a problem with that. I'm telling you, I'm waking up every morning, Lord, I need some help because I found a new problem. And I'm saying that to say to you that God is revealing, and I'm watching, and I love to see young people. Pastor Maurice, he was just fatigued, he couldn't hang no more. When we saw y'all last night, was it last night? No, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. He said, you know what? He said, our focus should be the young people. He said, we old. You know, if we ain't figured it out by now, we ain't gonna figure it out. He said, y'all was the focus. I said, okay. So as I'm watching, I'm peeping, I'm listening to your man right here, and I'm listening, I'm watching y'all, I'm like, okay, all right, God, I hear you. That's why my goal, as you're getting the natural concept of existence, economics, health, mental health, all these things, and understanding how your body works, you need to understand how God in you works to try to affect you, to have a better influence for you to deal with your external existence better. There is lost money, there is mental health, there's all these things. Let me tell you, COVID or no COVID, here was the question that was asked. Is God cool with it? Is he not cool with it? God ain't considered none of it. God ain't in none of it. God does not interfere with the will of man. All the sickness, everything going on, diabetes, all that, that's not God's bad. That's something, that's bad choices. Period. I know a man of God, if I said his name, you would know who he is. Everybody in this room would know who he is. Got diabetes and taking pills. Hanging with a good friend of mine. He said they was hanging out, preaching, doing what they did. He said, man, they rolled in town 2 o'clock in the morning. Man, they going, he gonna order some ribs. He going, hey man, what you doing? He said, man, that's why I got these pills so I can eat these ribs. He said, maybe if you don't eat the ribs, you wouldn't eat the pills.
Exactly.
Wow. You see what I'm saying?
It's good stuff.
So here's where that goes. God is not in the vaccination. God is not in the COVID. God is not in the diabetes. God is not in all that's going on. God does not interfere with the will of man. What's going on is what man, somewhere, somebody plotted, decided to do. That was a causality of some sin, causality of this, causality of that. The vaccination, here's the one thing, COVID and the vaccination that people don't identify, I believe I'm man, people don't. It brought fear.
It is.
God does not give you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Because people are afraid. They are loose, they have no power. They're operating in hatred, and they lose in their mind. That's why they make the stupid statements like it's a mark. Yeah. Man, if you're a preacher, now my brother right here, he's not a preacher, but God gonna make him one. Yeah. So we got folk out there, seasoned preachers that say that garbage. Are you serious? Like I'm looking at like, man, what's wrong with you? You know, make you want to say verses not holy. Like, come on, man, and then you gonna spout that garbage out.
Yes, and we will.
Come on, and they do it. So here's where they go with that, man. Check this out. Fear causes you to lose all your power. There's no love, and you lose in your mind. So here's what I say to you about that. Whatever decision you make it out of trust in God. Amen. I'm not afraid of getting the COVID. Not afraid of it at all. I'm not afraid of the vaccination. So what I do is I rationalize the situation. All right, well, you know, I already got it now. I did the study on it, found out that if you recover from COVID, you're at a 98.3% of not getting it again, even with the strand variation. Mm-hmm. The vaccination covers you at 96.3. But now, my wife had a good question. She said, okay, well, what does that put me if I get the vaccination? It actually covers you at a high and brings your percentage higher.
Yes.
So what my wife did was she went science, because she asked me about it. My son asked me the other day if I get it, God ain't worried about you with no vaccination. Man, get it, if you don't get it, if you're not gonna get it, don't get it. Just don't be afraid. And be prepared for the consequences for your decisions.
That's right.
That's it. But God ain't in either or. He just don't want you afraid of nothing. So whatever you do in life, do it in faith. You know what? I'm gonna research this, but at the end of the day, I gotta trust God. Because it's always.
Are you guys vaccinated? Are y'all vaccinated? Are people in the shelter vaccinated?
Well, we only got vaccinated because we got paid. They paid us $110 to get vaccinated.
That's okay, you guys.
Look, I went and got it, I didn't get nothing.
A lot of people say that the one that I took, the Johnson & Johnson, 2 years later, you're gonna start feeling symptoms, like your body shutting down on you. And all this
2 years later, it ain't even been 2 years since the vaccine came out.
Well,
Nobody's been talking that.
Well, those are the theories, is what he stated.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. I'm like, come on, man.
Now, let me help y'all out with that. Anything that you hear that causes fear to rise is not God.
That's good stuff, right?
If God does not give you the spirit of fear,
It does not.
Love.
notice everything is predicated on fear. You can't vote. If you get hit in all this, oh, we all gonna die. Everything is predicated on fear. Fear causes you to lose your rationality. You reduce an intellect behind fear. Any word that causes you to be afraid is not of God.
Yes.
Now, God will caution, but he will also extol. If I give you a caution, I'll give you an answer. Now, if you do this, you might get this, but here's an out. That's what God does. God does not throw something out of fear and then he just be there with it, because that's not God. I'm giving you word, that's the scripture, word verbatim. He does not give you spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Fear takes all that away. And you gotta understand that a lot of these theories, you got folks that's speaking out their rear ends. Really. And I'm talking from the pulpit to the politician.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not, I'm real, and I'm in the pulpit. And a lot of cats is in there, we need to get out. Speaking, I'm just telling you how it is. I'm like, hey, nigga, I don't want you up here with me, go. Because at the end of the day, you're foolish, and you're gonna hurt these people. Hello, and God is already dealing with that. So I want to encourage you, young man. I know the information out there.
You got something.
It's a lot of say like he say she
Get flat here. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't believe. I think
this is what's left. Yeah, I think that's just left there.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? I know what I
Yeah, there is some money.
Yeah.
I don't think.
But I want you to get a truth. If it brings fear, that's not God. And my goal of all the information you get is to awaken your relationship with God first. Now, all the stuff that you're hearing can work properly because you're doing it in power. You know what I'm saying? Because I know a lot of people got a lot of money, bro. Oh, I'm talking. I can't even think of this. The most miserable people you ever
You don't believe.
I mean, man, I'm talking cats getting private jets. I'm talking cats in the private party. I'm talking the kind of dough that a lot of people get at. They got it, and they like miserable. Like, hey, dude, I'm cool. I mean, their kids trying to kill them. They trying to kill their kids. The wives and husbands can't get along. Man, I mean, you would think all that money, everybody would be cool. Oh man, that means they got a lot of money, but they ain't got no power. They ain't got no love, and they ain't thinking straight. See what I'm saying? See, if you gotta get money, if you think the money don't make you, I don't have a lot. I've had a lot of money, I didn't have no money, and you in between the money. But here's the one thing I say about me. It don't make me one way or another. I've been homeless a little bit like this. You got what I'm saying? So you are God mixed you, not your stuff. I make my stuff. My stuff don't make me. You got what I'm saying? So when you get your money, you still do. You still got your head on straight. You still make the sound decisions. Money or no money. And that's scripture. Paul said, I've been hungry. I've been full. I've been rich. I've been poor.
That's right.
But I can do it all because through the strength of Christ Jesus. So at the end of your situation in your life, don't determine, it don't define you. You got what I'm saying? So you are a man and a powerful man of God.
Yes, you are.
And don't let nobody define you by your, I got swag in a homeless shelter. And I got swag when I'm sitting in my penthouse.
Look at that. Look at that. Y'all, it's good stuff.
If you got it, you got it.
It's true. And the penthouse will come out of you, and they gonna come for you.
Look at that, Bishop. I like that.
It's gonna come out because it's in you.
Yeah.
So it's got to come. God is in you. God ain't outside you trying to do for you. He inside you trying to do it for you. You got to identify him in you, which is what I'm trying to turn y'all on to. God in y'all. He ain't outside you trying to get your attention. He in you trying to say, use me. And he ain't gonna do it for you. He gonna do it through you. So that penthouse is in you. That jet is in you. And when you drive around, you be like, this ain't gonna mean nothing.
Hey man, when you get that's exactly what you're gonna do. I've been Gulf Springs on them. When you get it, it takes $150,000 a year to get just for the fuel.
Man.
$250,000 just to have people to drive.
Man,
So you're gonna be like, by the time you claim $500 million, that's just the operating thing. Keep it.
I got a
Just one jet. $1 million a year, just operate.
I got a cat who got one and said, he said it's just better for him to go get it United and fly with it first class.
Yeah.
He said, man, I said, I parked that thing because it costs too much.
It costs $1 million a year to fly a jet.
But what I'm saying is just no limitations. But it's in you.
Yes.
It's all in you. You gotta wake it up. That's what I'm saying?
Praise the Lord.
And don't let none of that foolishness, if any fear come in, automatically know that's not God. And it's gonna reduce your power. Because fear is the opposite of faith.
Yes, it is.
So I'm saying, so if all of a sudden you read something like, ooh, and if we all get it. Don't make no decision on that. Nah, let me get some facts. Let me get some information on that before something ain't sitting right. So I want y'all to know, man, God is the caller.
And we would rather be here with you guys. I can't speak for him.
No, you speak
than
for
10,000 people.
Man, look.
Do you know how discerning you have to be as an individual? Especially Bishop said, be around 10,000 people. Think about it. There was 10,000 people right around us right now. What conditions our mind would have to be watching people don't know what the person.
It ain't even that. You know, let me go here. 10,000 people, they're around and it's exciting because it's 10,000 people.
Yeah.
They there for the excitement of it. It's really not trying to get nothing out of it. It's a spot to be in. It's a social thing. I said, man, look, I had a chance. I've been around 10,000, but I didn't have to preach. But I've been around 3,000. And man, been there, done that. Here's where I'm at now. I'd rather be around a sincere free than 3,000.
Yes, sir.
Real talk.
That's what
Because it's
that's what it is.
it become entertainment, but I'm not an entertainer. That's not my get at. You know, I'm a teacher. At the end of the day, man, I want somebody to get it. I don't want you to be around me and hear something. And I would love for you to take what you heard and likeness of me and watch your life take off. Then I'm good. You ain't never got to see me ever again.
Ever again in life.
But just to know I said something that triggered your life to explode, and man, for you to find out for yourself, and then watch this. How many people will you affect? See, you might be the 10,000 I can't affect. See what I'm saying? I'll get on that plane feeling good just because I had a chance to chop it up. Watch that light come on. And no matter what, see, I know when the light come on. I know when some folks just kind of look at the wall. And I know when folks are like picking up on something. And there's stuff that we're saying you get right now, and there's stuff that you're saying that you ain't get. But later on, y'all can go, oh, that's what he's talking about.
too fast.
Right.
Right there,
Now you got some wisdom. Grandma, mama, someone taught you something that is coming out in here today.
I raised myself. I was in foster care since I was 8. And then I ran away from the foster care system when I was 15. And so basically from 15, I was in and out of like human trafficking, all kinds of stuff in New York. And so I was just trying.
You learn from experience.
I learned from everything I went through.
All right, so here's how that works. A lot of people call that a hard life, and it is. But God will give you more than you can bear. What God is doing is He's taking that hard life and developing His gift. Let me adjust what my brother said.
Okay.
Here's the adjustment. He said, God ain't bearer of gifts. Here's the adjustment. He is a bearer of gifts. You just a gift He bearer. You the gift.
Yeah.
He gives gifts to you.
Yeah.
You're the gift. He's developing you so He can give you people that need you.
Oh, yeah.
And you're passing it to them. You have to pass it.
Definitely agree with that.
You have to pass it.
And it is so. Yeah.
So now, He ain't gonna bring you no house. He ain't gonna bring you no car. That's in you.
Yes.
You just gotta apply the principles and the facts to make it work. And make the decisions, get your credit straight, handle your money right. You can have all that. God is about discipline and principles. You got what I'm saying? So all of it's in you. You gotta bring it out. So whatever you want in life, there's no limitation. Don't let nobody tell you what you can't. There's no limit, whatever limitations, that's what you place in this stuff. And don't let your situation be like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Now that's where your faith gotta kick in. No, it's gonna happen. I'm just waiting for the door to open.
And that's one thing I can say, I never gave up on me because like even when I was living on the streets and stuff like that, I was still going to school. I still managed to graduate, you know what I mean? Like it was weird because like I had the person that I was with at the time, you know, going to school, saying, you know, I'm her dad, But I did that to make sure that I still graduated and I graduated high school before I went to GPA.
Yeah, I see.
So let's go further. Let's go deeper before we go further. So you're sharing a lot of information, but this is also time for you to get some clarification and get on the road. I want you to hear what I'm saying, on the road to break through. What put you in the current climate that you're in now? What happened? Let's look at that. I'm gonna give you something that I normally charge for. I'm gonna just take a couple of seconds, because we got a week for lunch anyway. Tell us what put you in the climate that you're in. You don't have to get into all the specifics.
Before you do that, you know you're being counseled. He's a certified, licensed counselor.
I'm gonna have to wire this guy's in about 2 seconds. Please, young lady.
What currently I'm in a situation that
In this current climate, why you here?
like in this building
Nope,
or outside.
nope. What put you in the current situation that you're facing over at the shelter? What happened?
Domestic violence.
Okay. What led to your domestic violence?
Trusting in me.
Okay.
And believing that things would be okay, and he wasn't trying to work and I couldn't work at the time, so we used to argue all the time. So just those regular arguments for me, like, you know, get a job, stop playing the game on me, go do something to, you know, fighting and physical.
Okay. So long story short, you don't have to get high in the weeds. We're looking for root cause analysis. When you say that you came with someone that wasn't working, you wasn't working, you was attracted to him, you was into him, he was into you, you guys came together, and in your coming together, you understood that right off the bat that there was tension. Now let's go here and look at this. Anytime you're in a predicament and another person is in a predicament, and you guys come together and nobody's in a position to make life better for the other person, automatically it's going to cause chaos. Because now where you had yourself broke,
with no money. Now you have another self that's broke with no money.
Oh, no, that wasn't the case. I had got the house. I had got an apartment.
Okay,
And-
but were you working?
No, it was through, a voucher down here in Greenville, HUD voucher. So it was,
And that's well and fine. Stay with me. I'm making a point. You got a HUD voucher, you got a house, you got into it. That was a gift to jumpstart you. But now let's go back to what led you into your current climate. You was with someone. You was someone. It's not working, had no establishment. He wasn't working, had no establishment. So now where you had one body that was broken and have nothing, now you have two bodies. Stay with me. That's the perfect storm. It's a perfect storm for violence. Because nobody can see beyond the current scenario. You're trying to figure it out and unravel all of this. He's trying to figure it out and unraveling all of this. And so it goes back to the old story where the blind is leading the blind. So my thing is that sometimes, and this is just food for thought, you guys make your own decisions, because I'm telling you, and I'm coinciding with what the bishop said. All of you are gifted and anointed and have your purpose, and God has designed something for you all to do. And you have to figure out what that calling is. But the thing is that you have to understand there's a few basic principles that's at work here. And until sometime I'm in a whole place, it's hard for me to go out and yoke myself up with somebody else. Now it's okay to have a relationship, to get to know somebody, but when you start, my mom used to say, start sharing with somebody and pulling covers with them and keeping house. Well, you guys was equally yoked because
he didn't believe in God and I did.
I get that part. Stay with me one thing at a time, and we can get into all of that. I want to talk about current conditions. And the current conditions is that you guys were both in the same boat. That's what I want you to understand. I'm not talking about your spiritual belief, because that is what it is. And we don't want to debate that. You need that. His was what it was, and that's what it was. But I want you to understand that when you come together in a relationship, that people need to understand. They need to understand in order to make a relationship, and this is where I'll sum this up. You got to have something and bring something to the table, both people. Because when you don't, it's going to make it toxic. And that's what I wanted to get at.
And that's what he brought the path to, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
They used to say the old days, broke people can't help broke people. And that's just what he's saying, your associations are who you hang around with, and what it is you're trying to do. Make sure that you both are trying to change it.
Exactly. You're going somewhere. That's what I wanted to get at. Not to put you down, not to slam you, but also understand that in a relationship, it takes two. It takes two. We know that.
Now, here's the reality of that. It's all right for you to not have much and he did not have much, but if y'all both are trying to get something,
Right.
now your focus is driven to achieve and not use.
Man,
You got what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I was the one who was providing everything. So I provided the food, we had furniture, I'm the reason that he had drinks and everything he needed every day that I did here.
Yeah.
So I was getting paid to do here and stuff. It's not a job.
Yeah.
Like,
You was getting money.
yeah.
That's a business.
So I'm just like,
You need no job. You need a source of income for your
that's what the issue was. Like, I'm doing it.
That sounds like a business way to talk to me.
That's what the issue was.
Now he just, and then now in that thing, psychological and principle things, you might need to be over. And which makes it even worse from a spiritual standpoint. Because at the end of the day, it leads, it's a debate. My concept of it is if you, I know some cats that got money and but they're not spiritually connected.
Right.
And they are psychologically abusive to the spouse that is spiritually connected. Now, it can work, but it's going to take a lot on the one who's spiritually there, the one who's not.
Right.
So even in an economic standpoint, it's still questionable at the end of the day, because what good is to have all of that stuff and you got no goods? Because at the end of the day, hey, look, we ride in a new BMW, and then this was between me and my wife, man, in our first separation. And they gonna think out there, we living with the doctors and the police chiefs and all that other stuff in the same neighborhood with the doctors and neighbors. And we probably was BMW, we couldn't stand each other. Couldn't stand each other, like, hey. You know, and that's what it was. It's like, then we lost everything, he stayed in a motel with the kid, and he was cool. The kids thought it was a vacation. And it's like, we want to get to the house. And the kids was like, oh, we gotta leave. I'm like, so, we tell you, man, don't, stuff is cool. Been there, done that. Let me tell you, I'm at a point now. Tell my wife, she told me, oh, I'm gonna buy you a new car. What you want? I don't care. Well, I don't like this. Whatever. Because I've been there, done that. Man, we brand new cars, like, can't stand each other. Fuck you. Sure. You know, and then I'm driving, she actually talks to me. We on our way going to see our new house. And she mad at me, and we on the road, and I'm driving our new truck. We got a Yukon XL sitting on 22s. On our way to go look at our new house. Just got the keys. On the way there, she sucked me in the jaw while I'm driving. Wow. And I'm like, now, see, if I wasn't driving, they're going to call the police. It's going to be a fight.
Yeah. All right, fellas.
And I'm saying that to say, at the end of the day, and I understand, when you're in a place that needs you, like, man, look, you just kind of want some comfort. I got that. But at the end of the day, man, if you ain't got no peace and you ain't with somebody that you connect to, it don't really mean nothing. It's just like, man, you got all this, and it's like, man, honestly, I have more peace in my car. But nobody's there.
You don't want to be starting over. It's like, it's not a fear of mine, but it's like I guess it's separation.
Yeah, no, I got you. That's what
I don't want to start over, so I really try to make things work and fix whatever the issue is.
How old are you?
And then start over. 26.
26. Okay.
Is this your first child? Is this your first child?
Okay.
Where the rest of you?
So my first daughter, she got adopted, and then my second daughter, I'm dealing with trying to get her for BSS down here. So they just waiting on me to get my house fixed. They can't give her anything.
You don't have a place for it,
Right.
So I gotta use the stay basically, so I can get my room fixed.
So you're still young enough, but you're still young enough to get it together. Sure. And get that consistency. Sure. But everybody needs consistency, needs stability. And that's just what makes life work. So at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that. You should want that.
Oh yeah, they want me to do everything. So
this is a good start. I'm gonna tell you, man, hook up with these cats. These are some sound solid cats. Y'all do your part. Let me tell you, it's hard to help somebody who just don't really want it. That's what my man was saying. It's like you want a mentor, man. No, but you gotta want it. Because it can't be a once. I can't keep calling you, you're not answering. Right. You see what I'm saying? At some point, you gotta call me.
Right.
And be like, hey, I'm just checking on you. Cool, good. And that makes the effort worthwhile. But even Jesus got tired of it. Oh, yeah. My son suffering with you. Yeah. Calling his own name. Jesus.
Can I add something, best friend, and the rest of you? Yep. And, I don't want to just start calling out scripture, because that's how I live my life. But I think about the man at the pool. He had an excuse.
Yeah.
And Jesus ignored his excuses.
Yeah.
He had a situation on for 38 years. And this man kept coming to the booth, but he answered it. Right? But when you hear the truth, and you hear the word, you gotta act upon it, and you're getting the word. You just gotta act upon it. And I know it's been right, and I sense that it still is right.
Yeah.
But take all the information you have received today and apply it. A seed doesn't grow overnight. You have to bear it first. So what you receive today, bear it inside, and days to come, you're gonna see a harvest from what you've been taught in that section.
And the thing that I was really driving at, and I appreciate you for that, Bishop, was my point is that starts with accountability.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that there was some, I sensed that there was a little bit of resistance about that, but that's where the heavy lifting starts. It's always easier for to say to him,
Yeah.
he was my reason or this. But first of all, you got a little money or a lot of money. If you ain't whole, that's why I said initially about being whole. If you're not whole, then it doesn't matter if you got a little money, if he's doing or not doing, there's gonna be problems. Yeah. If you are whole, if you have a little money, he's on the same sheet of music, then you guys are learning how to work with each other to make situations better. Now, if you don't, and this is not for me, this is stats, more violence take place in poverty situations when money is tight or there is no money than where there is some. So what I'm saying is that it'll create the scenario. It don't have to be. You guys can be broke as Joe's turkey and still be in love because you're right there together. But I want you to walk away, all of you all to walk away with your hands pointed to me. So this is on me to get it together. It starts with me. And I'm willing to do the heavy lifting. I can't lift you guys up. There's no one in here can lift you up. We can empower you to lift up yourself. That was the first thing that I learned going back to school. No man can change anyone. Change starts with each one of you, like change started for us. It's called empowerment. We can give you what God has given to us to help make a difference. So again, thank you guys for coming out the past couple of days. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you gained something. We'll be back here next year, Lord willing. Same back time, same back channel. First weekend. Because that's what we do. We annual symposium. We're not there to do this every day, every week. We're not set up. We're not equipped for that. We would like to be, but we're not there yet. All right? Yeah, we're not equipped. We're just not set up. We can't.
That is horrible.
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to start taking me to the forget.
Now what you do is, you get the contact information.
Yeah.
You can still stay connected.
Well, you have the information from Cheryl, right?
No, she has my information. I can get anybody.
Okay, well, you connect. Okay, can you help somebody to pray this? Hold on one second, guys.
We ask that once we pray, wash your hands.